For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
We've been waiting for you.
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Corey Clubb.
Hello, this is Corey Clubb, and welcome to show number 6 of Coffee with Kenobi, a brand new Star Wars podcast that analyzes our favorite saga in a whole new way. With me is my good friend and co-host, Dan Z.
Hello, everybody. It has been a long time since show number 6, and we are very excited to be back with all of you. Since show number 5, we had our very popular interview with New York Times bestselling author John Jackson Miller, author of Kenobi, as well as our very first coffee chat with the Indy Cast. Both shows were very well received, and we thank you for your support. We also want to thank John Jackson Miller, as well as Mike and Joe from the Indy Cast, for graciously giving their time and talents to our podcast. We have made a lot of friends in the Star Wars community thanks to Coffee with Kenobi, and we appreciate it. A special thanks to Gunner from TNA Wrestling for the awesome t-shirts he sent to Corey and me and bringing so much attention to our show. Thanks also to Chad for letting Gunner know about our show. Very cool. We have also made it to over 330 likes on Facebook since show number 5, and we hope that trend will continue.
In today's show, we're honored to share a cup of coffee with Ed Dolista of the Indy Cast. Ed has been presenting the Indy Cast for over 5 years, and his passion and knowledge of Star Wars and Indiana Jones is well known. We are very excited to have him. Ed will join us as we discuss our topic for show number 6, Star Wars Special Edition. It is a discussion not to be missed. We also have an interview with Mark Berry of the Midwest Garrison of the 501st. Mark, Aaron, and Kent were present at my son Wesley's birthday, and we catch up with Mark to find out more about the 501st and what it's all about. What it's all about, how to join, and lots more beyond the armor.
We will also look at news regarding J.J. Abrams' vision for Episode 7, the spin-off films, the top 10 Star Wars fights, and how you can purchase a life-size Kenner Stormtrooper. We will introduce our show. We will also introduce our topic for show number 7. And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Oh, wait. This is interesting.
You found something.
Well, it's been a while since our official show. We did get a chance to sit down with Joa and Mike from the Cantina Cast, and I had a little coffee chat with them from our last episode. But as far as official episodes, we've been pretty busy with life. I know, Dan, school started up for you, and you've been busy with that, especially your thesis. Yep.
Yeah, that's taken a lot of time. I was just looking it up, too. All the hours with the thesis and all of our good times with our children. We haven't had an official show since August 14th. Which seems crazy. And in the meantime, we've been really active on our webpage, and we'd like to take this moment again to give a special shout out to Lisa Dullard for doing such a great job on our website and posting all those great news stories. And we couldn't do it without her. She brought so much attention to our site, and we thank you again, Lisa, very much. We also want to announce that Melinda Wolf, who has been a frequent contributor to our email segments and our discussion segments, she's going to be our official blogger for Coffee with Kenobi, and she's going to have a couple different posts out a couple times a month, and she's going to have a lot of interesting, insightful, fun things to say. She's a really fun person that we're all going to have a great time reading about and getting to know, and so we look forward to that as well.
I'd also like to mention the Bearded Trio is also a huge supporter of our show. We love having them support all our stuff, and I'm a big fan of Angry Birds. Dan, you're a big fan of Star Wars. How there's some kind of contest? What's up with that?
Yeah, well, Rob had reached out to us a couple weeks ago, and National Geographic was kind enough to send him a couple of copies of the book Star Wars: The Science Behind the Saga. And the surprising thing about that is, at first you think, oh, okay, Angry Birds, that's a fun game, or maybe you're not so into the game. Regardless, what is this book about? Well, actually, it's taking the science of Star Wars as an actual science, not science fiction, and talking about the possibilities for the planets, the equipment, the technology, and showing the real scientific applications behind it. And because we're an intellectual show, or at least we like to think of ourselves as an intellectual show, this is a perfect book for us. So if you go to coffeewithkenobi.com, and we're going to have a link on our show notes, or if you go to thebeardedtrio.com, there's going to be a little message there, and I'll just read it to you. It says, sign up for #AngryBirds, #Star Wars, the science behind the saga, thanks to @TheBeardedTrio, @Coffee with Kenobi, and @National Geographic Books. If you can tweet that 2 lucky winners going to get a free copy of that book, courtesy of Rob and the Bearded Trio and National Geographic Books.
I'd like to also mention that contest ends on October 5th.
Yeah, so act now. The movement on that has not been as productive as we'd have liked, and we're looking forward to, hey, we want to give you free Star Wars stuff. So all you have to do is make one little tweet. It's really, really easy, and it supports our show, the Bearded Trio, and National Geographic. They talk about a strong, popular brand for many, many, many years. So it's a great opportunity for all of our listeners. And there's one other thing, Corey, and I know we've been talking about these T-shirts for a very long time. What's going on? Why don't I have my shirt on right now?
That's a good question. Well, I know we took a lot of initial orders. We did have kind of a money expenditure on our end, what we wanted to get to as far as shipping costs and basically a low cost we can send out to fans and friends to purchase a shirt costs $16. That includes shipping on our website. Check out our website, coffeewithkenobi.com. Scroll down to the PayPal button, pick your size, and hit buy now button, and it'll pop up on PayPal. And if you do want a different size, possibly an extra large or a different size like that, just send us an email. We definitely like to get every sizes. I know a lot of people have ordered them already. Thank you for those who've sent their money in. Look forward to getting those out to you guys.
Oh, that's good. And if you go to the website, we have a lot of course, tabs, and click on the show news tab, and that's where you'll find the T-shirt offer. If you can't find it on the main page, you should if you scroll down long enough. And by the way, as we've said before online, we're not making a dime from this. We just want to spread the word, and we thought it would be awesome to have shirts with a great design that Corey made for the show. A lot of people have been clamoring for it, and we're going to send them out. We just have to make sure that everybody who signed up for a shirt, pays for it. We don't want to send Boba Fett after you.
It's good. I will say we have probably, what would you say, half the orders that are already
probably
paid
a little
for,
over half,
and we're looking for around 20, 22, something like that.
I'm pretty sure, if we got 21 orders, the shirts were really, really cheap.
Yeah.
Not cheap quality-wise. In fact, the company we're using is a pretty strong company. They make a lot of great custom stuff. But we're excited to do it, and if you're someone who hasn't reserved a shirt yet, but you really want to get one, and you realize, it's the Christmas season, what would be better for my spouse or my loved one than to wear that Coffee with Kenobi shirt?
Well, I'm waiting for the Coffee with Kenobi Snuggie, if I don't know about you, but I'm kidding, we're joking. But you never know what comes up around here. So
yeah, maybe there'll be slippers or who knows.
This is Mark Berry, the Midwest Garrison and Mandalorian Mercs Nexu Clan, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z and Corey Clubb. This is the podcast you're looking for.
Dan Z and Corey Clubb here from Coffee with Kenobi, here with Mark from the Midwest 501st Garrison at Corey's son's Wesley's birthday party. And Mark has been gracious enough to let us interview him and talk about the 501st and its impact on fandom and just the world at large. Mark, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
And Mark, go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the 501st and what the 501st does in the Star Wars universe and beyond.
I started back in 99 making this Boba Fett costume that I started with, and spent many years working on this, spent a whole year working on it, and actually wore it for Halloween one year. Then I actually had it all together for Celebration 3. I wore it at the convention, and then I found out there's this 501st booth there. I'm like, what are these guys? And got to talking with them, and they told me about the group and how far they went and, what they covered, what they did. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm going to submit my app and find out how to join this club. So a few months later, in May, I'm an official member, start doing events. We're big into charity. The whole basis of the club is charity-based. And that's why Lucas lets us kind of play in his sandbox. We get around some of the copyright. He lets us do what we do because it promotes him and his franchise, and now it promotes Disney and their franchise. Pretty much anytime they need us, they know they can call us, and we will be there if they want a promotion, an official event, something like that. But what we really love is the kids-based charities like children's hospitals, Relay for Life, that sort of thing, Down syndrome walks, and we do countless events. Last year, I believe we helped raise like $14.3 million. Not too bad for, a group of volunteers. We spread all over the world. We're in over 50 countries right now. We have over 6,500 active members. It's an amazing thing.
Well, Mark's been with us for the afternoon. He brought along some other members with him. The costuming part of it was down to a T. He was talking to me about it and saying how, he's Boba Fett and how everything was put together down to, like you're saying, the coloration of the paints and the gear and the wrist armbands, and just getting it down to the point to where it's basically it could be in the movie. I would think it could be in the movie. I also think that like he was saying, you have to be up to par as far as your costuming goes, and be authentic and get into it and submit an application. And it was just an interesting process for us, and we appreciate Mark coming out and visiting with us.
So, Mark, how does we've got a lot of listeners here, and it's growing all the time, and I'm sure a lot of them are interested in the 501st, and there's a lot of other costuming organizations through Star Wars and fandom, and could you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. There's 3 big Star Wars costuming groups. There's more out there that are growing, but the big 3 is the 501st Legion, which does all the bad guys of Star Wars who do good. They do your Imperial Stormtroopers, your Darth Vaders, all that stuff, even down to Tusken Raiders and that sort of thing. And then there's the Rebel Legion, which does all the good guys. They have all your Luke Skywalkers, your main face characters, your Han Solos, your X-Wing pilots, Rebel Fleet Troopers, all that sort of stuff. They also have Tusken Raiders in there. There's a lot of costume that'll cross those 2 groups. A lot of the clones will go to both groups, because the clones were good until Order 66, and then they went to the dark side. So, and then there's also the Mandalorian merch, which is basically a bunch of custom Boba Fett costumes. So you want to be a Mandalorian, but you don't want to spend all the money to be Boba Fett, which it takes a lot of money to do Boba Fett or Jango Fett or all those canon costumes. You can join our other group, the Mandalorian merch. There's CRLs, costume reference libraries, and guidelines for all these groups. If you go on 501st.com, you can get to them. I believe it's rebellegion.com. Look up mandalorianmerch.com, and you can find more info on these groups, and it'll tell you what you can and can't do for certain costumes. The 501st and Rebel Legion are very movie oriented. If it's not in the movie and it's on your suit, it's not a good thing. It's they strive for coming right out of the movie. If it doesn't look movie quality, movie accurate, it's not going to pass. Mandalorian merch, they offer a little more leniency towards that. It has to look in universe, so there's no, you can almost do anything you want, but you can't do like a Batman Mandalorian. That's not going to fly. Or you can't do some total weird colors like Iron Man, any iconic character. Actually, the 501st does have a zombie trooper. Because of the Red Harvest, and I can't think of the other book, but there's 2 books that are based on zombies. Yeah. So there is a zombie trooper that you can do. You can't have like gory red blood, but it can be like dark. That's the way it's been there a while. Mm. So it is a possibility. It's one of our CRLs. It's a fun thing. I mean, it does cost a lot of money, but the first event, there's always one kid at every event, or one adult, or one moment at every event that makes it worthwhile for everything you've done. It's something you can't experience until you're on this side of the bucket.
Okay, I like that inside the bucket. That's very good. And one last thing. So if someone right now is listening to our show and they're thinking, I want to be a part of this, I want to help kids out, I want to get some amazing Stormtrooper armor, how do you suggest that fans go ahead and do that and get their armor and enlist in the 501st?
Basically, it's going to 501st.com. There's a whole unit listing in there, and it'll try to find the unit that's in your area. Like Illinois is Midwest Garrison, and like the Rebels in our side, and Illinois is the Narshada base, and they do Illinois and Wisconsin. And the Mandalorian merch costume club in Illinois is called Nexu Clan. So, and that's just started out. The Nexu Clan's just under a year old right now, and we're growing. So go to any of those costume sites, and then, there's how to join us links on the main page of all those groups, and I'll tell you what you can and can't do. And 501st is a little bit easier for the setup because it's they can put you on separate boards. So if you're in Illinois, I would sign up for the Midwest Garrison and say there's a whole newbie thread. Introduce yourself there, tell where you're from, and then we have a Trooper Buddy program kind of set up. It's basically if you want to do a Stormtrooper, we have people in the north and the mid-state and south that'll built them and are willing to help others. And, it goes from there. I personally have been doing an armor party every week, Thursday nights, and we do a couple hours and try to get the new guys in and kind of show new guys in the central Illinois area, this is what you want to do. Come take a look. This is what we got. Give you an idea if it's something you want to do, see if it's something you're interested in, go from there. But, and you get to meet some of the people and kind of make your decision from there. We can tell you kind of the pluses and minuses of a costume. Body type makes a difference. We can't, none of the groups can judge or refuse somebody for body size, but we all ask that, if you're a really big person, you size your armor to you. Same thing goes for a short Vader. You can make it look and you can get in as a 5-foot Vader, but it's kind of up to you on that. As long as it looks movie accurate, that's what we're going for. So bottom line is, if we're making kids happy and fans happy, that's what we're out to do. And we get to have the joy of raising money doing it. So
we appreciate Mark coming on our show and talking about all this stuff. It's truly authentic and truly a good time. And if you see these guys out at movie openings or special events, definitely give them a handshake and tell them they do a good job, because they do a great job and they work hard on all their stuff, and we appreciate that. Thank you, Mark, for coming on. And thanks for coming to the party and enjoying all the kids and stuff. And like you said, the kids were stunned. Honestly, they were literally stunned. And they were just raving about it still. Even I can hear them out there. But they did a good job, and I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Mark.
The next thing we want to talk about is Abrams, of course, is famous for being silent and secretive, which I like. I'm in favor of, because we want to be surprised. But he's come out and said he was being interviewed for some TV shows he's doing, and he says he wants to make the films feel real. What he actually said was, it's impossible for me to say, because it's going to be an evolving thing. And he's, of course, talking about the theme, the feel of the new Star Wars film. And then he goes on to say, I would say we are working really hard to make a movie that feels as emotional and authentic and exciting as possible. Whatever your favorite Star Wars movie is, and how to compare it is really sort of subjective. And obviously it doesn't mean real like a real thing, but science fiction in itself means that it's not realistic, but it just feels believable in the world, in the context that it is. This is exciting because it shows that he's taking it seriously, which doesn't surprise me. He's a serious filmmaker.
And I think he's taking the right steps, because we want an authentic movie all around. We want something that's real in this universe. Like I said, science fiction isn't real, but in this universe, to us it is, as fans, and we enjoy that. But I think he's doing a good job of taking the correct steps, not jumping into it, just doing half a job as far as writing a script. They're obviously working very hard and diligent on everything, and just little quotes like this get me more and more excited.
Yeah, and people are, I don't know if people are panicking, but people are hungry, starving for information, for news, and this is pretty much all we're going to get for a while, apparently. But again, as long as, like you said, they're focusing on quality and they're focusing less on spoofs and things like that, and getting down to the real nitty-gritty of making authentic, powerful films like the 6 that we already all know and love. So this is pretty cool.
So Dan, talking about the episode 7 and the next set of films we're going to have, they've also been talking about these side movies, or these origin movies, they've been calling them now, the spin-offs, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Still speculating as far as what they're going to do. I know the Disney guy, the CFO at Disney, spoke a lot about this. And
Jay
explained.
Rasselo. Yeah, I saw that. Do you remember what he said about it?
Well, he said it was kind of extremely hot for this market, pertaining to any media brand form of from Star Wars.
He's talking to Variety about it, and all they've said about these spin-off films is that they're going to have origin story films. And we knew that they were going to be we didn't know they were going to be origin films. We knew there were going to be spin-offs about certain characters. We still don't know for sure who these films are going to be about, and there's all kinds of speculation, which I'm not going to go into at this particular time, because I just want to wait and see. But know there's going to be basic origin stories about these characters. I know a lot of fans are nervous about this because they want to maintain the mystery of the aura of some of these characters, but I think, again, if a story is well told, it's probably going to be better than anything we've thought of before, so, hey, more power to them.
You look at some of the stuff that Disney's done before, obviously the Marvel comic book movies. They've done a lot of team movies and a lot of single character movies, obviously, but then also we get a lot of origin stories from them. And wouldn't it be great to have Star Wars origin stories? I mean, it's just filling a backlog of wonderful information.
Yeah, I think if they're going to do this, and they are, and I'm excited about this extremely. Some people are nervous that we're going to be oversaturated with Star Wars, but in the past couple years, we've had 3 Iron Man movies, an Avengers movie. We're about to have a second Thor movie, a second Captain America movie. I'm not tired of Marvel at all. In fact, I cannot wait to see Thor 2 and the new Captain America. So I think, I don't know, I mean, we haven't seen a film since 2005. So, again, if they're done well, this is going to be awesome.
All right, cool.
So now we've got StarWars.com. They've been having a lot of top 10s recently. We've been posting these online. But the one I want to draw your attention to is back from September 9th. And it's the top 10 best fights. And I'm just going to give you the top 10. Number 10 was Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. Number 9 was Mace Windu versus Darth Sidious in Revenge of the Sith. Number 8 was Yoda versus Dooku in Attack of the Clones. 7 was Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader in A New Hope. 6 was Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones. 5 was Luke versus Vader in Jedi. 4 was Yoda versus Sidious in Revenge of the Sith. 3 was Obi-Wan versus Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. 2 was Luke versus Vader in Empire. And number 1 was Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace. So, go ahead and check the link on our show notes about that. But I've been looking at these, and this is a hard top 10 to... I don't know how... I would probably change the order somewhat, but I'm not really sure. What do you think about this list?
I think it's a good list. Yeah, I definitely don't... I mean, I wouldn't say disagree with it, but I also wouldn't put maybe this not in this order. And obviously they're leaving a few out.
Yeah, what's missing? What do you think?
Well, it's hard to tell, too. One that pops in my mind is obviously the big battle in the arena in Attack of the Clones.
Oh, I mean, Geonosis?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a verse battle, but I'm trying to
Notice
think.
They're all lightsabers. Like, they don't have...
Oh, yeah.
I guess they don't count, like...
Well, I mean, the Battle of Hoth.
Fighter, the Battle of Hoth.
Yeah.
I think that could be on this list.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, it says best Star Wars best fights. I mean, obviously that's kind of like a boxing match, if you want to give it that way, you know.
Well, and really, I mean, the fight between Obi-Wan and Vader, they have it listed here as 7. If you have never seen a Star Wars movie and you're older, if you like teenagers these days, when I show them A New Hope in class, there's a lot of that's it to that kind of a fight because there's no acrobatics. It's an older man well past his Jedi prime, and then a guy who's half cyborg who's also well past his prime. But the emotional power and intensity of that was a big deal for us fans when we were growing up. So that one's kind of a tricky one as far as to where to place it. I think it's interesting that Vader versus Luke in Empire, that could probably easily be number 1 because it's the big I am your father moment. It was the most intense lightsaber duel we'd seen our entire lives at circa 1980. It doesn't surprise me that Darth Maul is number 1 because every time the hangar doors open, you hear the dun-dun, pardon my non-musical gifts, but who doesn't get goosebumps when you see that part?
Exactly, Dan, and it's actually, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think that'd be my number 1. I mean, it's a great sequence.
Me either.
And I love the acrobatics, but it's almost like it seems too, I don't know, I guess you want to call it, there's a little too much,
it's
you know?
Easy.
Yeah.
You think it's too much? Oh, I love Ray Park.
Oh, Ray Park is excellent. He did a great job. And, well, the other thing, too, is a different villain. He's not Vader. I mean, he's our first non-Vader, Dark Lord that we see on screen with a lightsaber duel. And, I mean, the other thing, too, is, I guess I'm getting way too in-depth, but I'll go ahead.
Well, this is Coffee With Kenobi. You're allowed.
Well, according to the story, the Sith has not shown their face for many, many, many years.
Yes.
And here this guy pops up, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, let's do this. I haven't forgot a thing. It just seems like they're almost all too very good with the lightsaber if they haven't used one.
Oh, man. Well, the Jedi have been using them for a long time. They just haven't had to fight any Sith.
Yeah, well, I mean, on their level, though, I mean...
I know. That's why I think maybe Qui-Gon wouldn't have been beaten if he had more practice and polish with that. But I don't know. It doesn't seem the practice really is all irrelevant if you got the Force flowing through you. I don't know. That's an interesting concept. It depends on the nature of the Force. Possibly a topic for a future show. I'm going to say that this number 9, Mace versus Darth Sidious, that's cool. It lasts for 5 seconds. Yeah. I don't think that belongs on the list.
I don't think so either.
Yoda versus Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. you and I were just talking about this the other night, but when episode 2 came out, I had no clue. I was so spoiler free. I was practically hermetically sealed in a vault because I didn't want to know anything that was going on. So when Yoda walked out, there were only 2 times in my life where I actually clapped and cheered like I was watching Michael Jordan for the Chicago Bulls, and that was when the Hulk throws Loki around in the Avengers, and when Yoda started fighting Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. You're talking about sheer emotional impact and just overwhelmingness. I would think this has got to be a top 3. And really the whole thing with, I think the fight with Yoda, when Yoda fought Darth Sidious in Revenge of the Sith, I didn't know that was coming either because, again, spoiler free, that's Danny Z. I was thrilled. I could not believe it. Let's talk about the 2 most powerful people in the Star Wars universe. I thought that was fantastic. And now, I mean, I don't know. Obi-Wan versus Anakin, that's the one that people have been waiting for almost 30 years. What do you think about those or how it all breaks down the top 5?
Again, like it is a good breakdown. Again, yes, I agree. The Yoda fight versus Dooku was something you don't expect. I wanted to bring up the Obi-Wan versus Jango Fett fight at number 6.
Oh, I love that fight.
It's a great fight, but it's another one, like you say, it's a little oddballish as far as, a bounty hunter versus a Jedi. It's something you don't normally see.
That was the first time we'd ever seen that. Actually, and as you progress through Season 5 of the Clone Wars, when you see the bounty hunters versus Obi-Wan Kenobi, they take that fight and expand on it and just the moves, and it's pretty cool. I think that's why I like that one so well, because it was just something cool we hadn't seen before, and it also kind of made sense why, because when you think about it realistically, anyone versus a Jedi, how could anyone have a chance? But this shows you're good with a gun, you're a good warrior, you do have a chance, so it makes the Jedi a little more human, and then the peril is a lot more realistic.
Exactly. Name it who fights in the ring, obviously it's more dramatic. Just cool.
It's true.
So Dan, real quick, your very favorite fight between 2 characters out of the saga?
For me, it's Vader versus Luke in The Empire Strikes Back. When that beautiful scene when Luke walks out and all of a sudden the lights come on in the carbon freeze chamber, and he says, "The Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you are not a Jedi yet." And then he walks to the top of the stairs, and there's that darkened silhouette of the 2 of them. That is a gorgeous shot, beautifully well done. I wish I had a framed photo of that, because the power of that, and you're just building for, because before you even know that Luke Skywalker is Vader's son, all you know is that the baddest SOB in the galaxy is hunting for Luke Skywalker, everybody's favorite hero, and you think, oh my gosh, if you were on Darth Vader's radar, you better look out, and Luke is not afraid. He's come a long way. It's just very powerful. It may not be the best choreographed, it was for its time period, but it's the most powerful one. It's my favorite one. What about you?
I completely agree with that. Empire Strikes Back was, like you said, that scene when he's walking up the stairs, and basically you see the glow of their lightsabers, and they hear the breathing, and the music's starting up. It's just like, it's incredible. It really is. I mean, they don't even have to swing a lightsaber. It's just that scene right there encapsulate almost the whole saga. It's like the guy versus the bad guy, and it's like, it's on. Let's do this,
And plus, not to mention the fact that it's basically and that fight in 3 acts. In the second act, Vader just appears out of nowhere, and he starts throwing things at Luke, and then you start to realize he's just toying with him, just cat and mouse for Vader. And there's, again, that real peril, that real suspense and danger. When I was a kid, every time I saw that, I was scared to death for Luke, and I thought, Darth Vader is frightening.
Yeah, I agree, too. And I think also, he's very young in his training. I mean, he does slip through Vader a couple of times, but then all of a sudden, like you said, he's toying with him, and then he just breaks him down, and you can tell Luke's tired, he's worn out, he can't keep up. And obviously he loses, and emotionally it's draining at the end there, where he's revealed as his father, and it just blows it right out of the water.
Yeah, you can't beat it. I have a feeling that prequel fans will say Episode 1 is the best one, and I'm not going to... I mean, how can you take that away from anyone? It's fantastic, but again, maybe this is where we're showing our original trilogy bias too. Who knows?
Well, definitely this is a topic that we could possibly do in our future show. And Dan, I'm going to bring up something we haven't talked about yet. Episode 7.
Oh, is that coming out?
It is. We barely ever talk about it, but
we should do a podcast about it.
It's definitely something we talk about a lot, and we enjoy talking about, because it's a huge thing coming up, and the Bearded Trio came up with a great list of things to prepare yourself for Episode 7. 7 great things for Episode 7, and I'm going to run down the list real fast here. At number 7 is the expanding universe. We've talked about in an earlier show. We talked about the expanding universe. What a great way to get into some of the characters, revisit some of the ideas, some of the backgrounds. At number 6, Star Wars Insider magazine. What a great way to talk about the industry and talk about Lucasfilm and talk about all the stuff they're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, plus our friend Tricia Barr now has two main stories for Star Wars Insider on Leia and Padme, so good way to support her side as well.
Absolutely, and I mean, everything in there, it looks great. The photos and everything, so good stuff.
It's good. Do you buy it? I mean, I subscribe for years and years now. I just kind of pick them up on the newsstand, but it's definitely an awesome magazine.
Yeah, I don't subscribe, but I definitely pick it up here and there.
It's pricey. I mean, you're getting full quality photos and articles, like you said. Mark writes for it too, and he's another friend of our show. But it's a pretty cool magazine. But anyway, so what else is on the list, Corey?
Sure. Number 5 is obviously the official Star Wars website where you get all your official news, which we love around here.
We do.
And another news site we also love is Jedi News UK. Definitely, they promote us. We love them. They got official stuff, too, that comes out from the website, and they have a great host of a bunch of different articles and things on there, so check them out, too. Number 3, Twitter is a great place to get it, but beware, Twitter loves the rumors, and you'll take it with a grain of salt. Any comments?
And Twitter is the one where Twitter's been a huge resource for our show. We've made a lot of connections through Twitter. Sure. Twitter has some great stuff, like you said. I'm sure there's spoilers all over the place on Twitter and all kinds of rumors. And Twitter's kind of something that you have to be careful with. It's almost like caffeine. A little bit of it goes a long way.
Absolutely. At number 2, we've got podcasts. Obviously, we love podcasts. We're listening to podcasts right now, and they were gracious enough here to put us on this list. We're honored to be amongst some of these great podcasts. I'll run down the list here real fast. World Force Radio, Full of Sith, the Katina Cast, ourselves, Coffee with Kenobi, the Force Cast, Starlight Pit, Star Wars Report. Obviously, some really great shows there. Check them out. Get online, listen to their podcasts, and give them support them, because we do love to support them as well, and they give the love right back. And great way to catch up on some great discussions, some great interviews.
The news, the humor, the insights. Rob has done so many great things for us in the Bearded Trio, and we were so honored and humbled to be a part of this list and to be ranked at number 2. That was awesome. But number 1, maybe I'll give you a little tiny drum roll. What is the number 1 way to get prepared for episode 7?
There you go. The number 1 way to get ready for episode 7 is watch the movies, of course, and Clone Wars. Absolutely. I mean, we were together last night, and we were playing Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, and
for my birthday, it was a lot of fun. It
was a great time, and just
who won, by the way,
I don't remember who won. The next time, just as like the intro came up on the game itself was like clips from the movie, obviously, and little clips of people saying stuff, and I was like, let's just shut this off and watch the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, it's definitely check out the movies, because it's going to reinforce your memory, too, and the great times you had watching it the first time. I know we definitely talk about that a lot on our podcast here, how much it influenced us as far as our memories. And check out the Clone Wars, too. And they've got a great, obviously the box set's coming out, and all seasons 1 through 5 are going to be collected there.
Sure. Unfortunately, none of our shows, none of the new episodes we've been looking for, but anything that's Clone Wars and the Blu-ray quality is something we are all excited about. So, great list by Rob. Thanks again for including us, and check it out, everybody.
Connection complete. Transmission commencing. Hello. I apologize for the interruption. I will return you to this podcast in just a moment. It's important that you know that not everyone can hear this message. Only the few listeners that I have accurately identified as Super Geek material. My name is Gannon. I am the Geek and Nerd News Intel Network for the Assembly of Geeks. We are a network of super geeks that gather at the Fantastic Fortress to discuss passions, issues, and controversies of our geek world. You have been identified as a super geek and are therefore invited to join our meetings. Before you are given security clearance to the fortress, I must make sure that you are truly a super geek. I will now make a statement and measure your emotional response. Controversial statement coming in 3, 2, 1. Jar Jar Binks could whip Boba Fett's wimpy ass any day of the week. In fact, he could do it in less than 5 parsecs. And the Sarlacc pit doesn't even have to be nearby. Yep, just as I thought. You are a super geek, and you now have security clearance to join the Assembly of Geeks. Find out more at assemblyofgeeks.com. Please come to the assembly in costume. Thank you for your time. I will now return you to the podcast you're listening to.
Han Solo, Rebel Soldier, Lando Calrissian, and Bespin Guard, each sold separately. From Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection, new from Kenner.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say, Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
In our collector news segment, we have a life-sized Kenner Stormtrooper. Again, we were just talking about my little birthday celebration with you and me and my brother Sean and my good friend Scott. We were talking about all these things that are coming out, all these collectibles, because our friend Scott was saying, well, what are you guys going to be able to talk about? Do you run out of things to talk about? Well, Gentle Giant has given us a life-size Stormtrooper action figure. It's a monument is what it is. It's over 6 feet tall. And Corey, did you see the price on this thing? It cost a cool $2,300.
That's a lot of Rebel credits.
That is a lot of Rebel credits. That's a lot of
Sorry,
things.
Galactic credits. I don't want to get bad emails.
Yeah.
So.
Even for $2,300, I don't know if I would pay that for a real Stormtrooper armor, let alone these. And it's ironic that this came out because probably a week before I saw it, I was going through some old collectibles, and I found all my Kenner vintage figures. And I saw the Stormtrooper, and I looked at the sculpt of the mask and the armor, and I thought, oh, this is cool, this is fun. It's the Kenner stuff, so it looks cool, but it doesn't really look like the movie. It's not exactly screen accurate. It's just very vintage, nostalgic. And hey, if you can afford it, take a picture and invite Corey and I over. We'll bring a cup of coffee over and hang out with you and check it out. So basically, it's not in our price range at this time, but it is a lot of fun. It's pretty cool.
It's interesting that they chose a Stormtrooper to do. What do you think about that? I mean, if it was me as a collector, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I don't necessarily would buy something that's life size, but Darth Vader would be more of a presence than a Stormtrooper to me. If you're gonna sink the money into it and you're gonna do the Kenner Stormtrooper, but I think having a life size Stormtrooper armor would be cool to have. So.
Well, plus, if they were going to do Vader or Luke or Obi-Wan, they could have the telescopic lightsaber, which is a classic thing. I was surprised by this too, but I mean, Stormtroopers are insanely popular, so that makes sense. I mean, it's a very nostalgic, it's a very niche-centered collectible, but it's pretty cool. I mean, I remember when they showed this at San Diego Comic-Con, I thought, oh my gosh, there's no way I could ever afford that, or would I spend the money on it? I'd rather buy the 1/1 scale Han Solo and Carbonite when and if that ever comes out. But it's fun.
Our next collector news is about the comic book series Star Wars that Brian K. Wood is writing. And there's been kind of some uproar about Leia's characterization. As we kind of looked this over and debated, just reading this, I mean, what's interesting about this is set between New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
They give it sounds like they give Leia this great, side mission, secret mission they go on, and she's got some great skill. But I got thinking about that, and I was like, well, that's cool, because her presence in A New Hope is almost like a facade. I mean, yeah, she's posing as a princess, and maybe she doesn't give her skills away, and, it seems she is almost like a secret agent.
What do you mean by her skills? Like Jedi skills?
Well, she obviously doesn't know she have Jedi skills yet, but I'm saying a skilled pilot. I mean, if she has those skills, why would she give that away if she needed to escape or if she needed to, bust out of there real quick? I'm thinking of the scene when they're blowing up Alderaan, and she's still trying to manipulate him there. I mean, that's what spies do.
Yeah, but I never really thought of her as a spy. I thought, she's like... She
is a spy.
Do you think so?
Oh, yeah. They stole the plans, man.
Well, yeah, that's more like covert. I guess it is spy-ish, but I see her more as just like a freedom fighter who's trying to strike a major blow against the Empire. But I never looked at her as a spy so much as just a capable, intelligent, strong woman. And somehow some fans are upset that she has taken such an active role in the series as an action heroine and being in charge of everything. Personally, I think that's beautiful and exactly how Leia should be portrayed. Between this and Martha Wells' Razor's Edge, we're talking about a strong character who's empowered, who's not afraid to assert herself, and no one can take any agency from her. So I don't understand why people get so threatened by this stuff with Leia. She is a strong character, so that's how she was designed.
Here's the other thing, too. I mean, you think about Leia in The New Hope, that's all you know of her at that point. Let's say you've only watched that movie, so all you know of her is basically her getting captured, getting, interrogated, and then rescued. So, and she, honestly, how many times did she grab a blaster and shoot stormtroopers?
Exactly, and she doesn't wait around, get in the garbage chute, fly boy.
She's basically taken over the rescue mission.
And faces Vader, doesn't blank. She stands up to Tarkin, and what I'm interested in with Leia, with this series, and more powerfully so because it's a novel, so you can do it as Razor's Edge, is that they deal with her dealing with losing an entire planet. Imagine, for some reason, if you will, that you had to watch your entire planet, not your city, not your state, but your entire planet destroyed, and you're the last survivor. And I mentioned this in my review on the website for Razor's Edge, but besides Kal-El, Superman, who else has had to deal with the destruction of their planet?
Spock.
Spock. Well, that's true.
Well, that's from the newest movies, but
that's
still
true.
Relevant.
Coffee with Khan. Yeah, but they don't. She's still strong and capable of dealing with incredible, emotionally intense things that we can't even fathom. Genocide on literally an intergalactic scale, and she still does what she does. I think that people like Brian K. Wood and Martha Wells should be put on a pedestal for taking this agency and running with it, not criticizing. What do they want her to do? Hide up there while Luke and everybody goes to destroy the Death Star, and she just sits behind the scenes? She can be a woman of action. I think that's okay. She has a story to tell, too. You just can't throw her in the background and she just, starts doing small little things and basically, like you say, puts the guys in charge. I think she's definitely she's part of the big three. When you think of Star Wars, you think of Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Princess Leia. That's all there is right there. I don't know. I just keep thinking about all the things she does. Look at she strangles Jabba the Hutt with her bare hands. If not for her, the Death Star would still be the Death Star. Absolutely. So I think this comic series is going in a great route. Definitely check it out. Get your opinion. We'd love to hear your opinion. Email us. What do you think? Maybe it's a future discussion. So definitely check it out and let us know what you think. Our next collectible is from Gimmick Tees, and we saw this on Jedi News UK. There are two little t-shirts they're offering. One is an AT-AT, and it's done in the symbol of the AC/DC logo. It's just black with white/silver AT-AT wording. And then there's a really fun one. It's Echo-based Search and Rescue. It's a red one. It's got almost a Red Cross symbol, but instead of one of those dogs, it's got a tauntaun on it. It's just a fun little t-shirt. They are, let me scroll down here, they are $15.99 a piece. They're a lot of fun, a very rare, interesting, unique collectible to show off your Star Wars fandom. Actually, Dan, they're exactly the same price as our t-shirt. Well, that is a good point, my friend. As we mentioned at the top of the show, go grab these shirts, and I think they'd be an excellent companion to your Coffee with Kenobi t-shirts. And remember, when you wear them, the ladies love you and the guys want to be you. You really can't go wrong. But definitely, I might just order one right now. Who knows? Yeah. Also, we should probably mention for our fans of our Coffee with Kenobi t-shirts, they're also sugar-free. What does that have to do with it? Sugar-free and gluten-free, if you want to go that far. Yes, they are. You don't have to worry about gluten.
Hi, this is Ed Dolista from the Indy Cast, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z and Corey C. This is the podcast you're looking for.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
I must be allowed to speak.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Our topic for show number 6 is a special edition. The pros, the cons, and the role of art and the artist in cinema. What about the right to change a work of art? Whose work is it? Lucas? The fans? Who knows? Joining us on this polarizing topic is none other than Ed Dolista of the Indy Cast. Ed is well known in podcasting as he hosts the Indy Cast via the Forcecast Network. The Indy Cast is the world's #1 Indiana Jones fan podcast, but Ed's passion for all things Lucas is firmly rooted in Star Wars as well, and we had to have him on our show. Ed has agreed to join Corey and me for a cup of coffee, and we are very excited to have him. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you, Dan and Corey. It's a pleasure to finally be in here. I like what you've done. The coffee is going. I thought this was actually Coffee with Katanga, so I may be a little bit indie biased.
I understand it. And, of course, you're talking about the Katanga from Raiders. Are you talking about the same Katanga from Top Secret?
No, definitely Simon Katanga.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, before we dive into our special edition, which, by the way, listeners, is a topic that Ed was keen to discuss, and we are looking forward to that, since we are all no strangers to controversial films that we love. Indy 4, anyone? First, Ed, let's talk about your involvement with Indiana Jones and the Indy Cast.
Well, I got started, I remember listening to the Force Cast in its early days, and they started to report indie material, and I thought, hang on, that they shouldn't be talking about indie material. That's something that I wanted to do as I was looking at getting into podcasting after having done a disco radio show for many years on public radio here in Geelong, in Australia, and so I sent them in a demo, and they liked it and said, oh, go for it. So basically, since 2007, I've been doing the show as part of the Forcecast network. We've got some wonderful contributors. Yourself, obviously, is now the official fan club president. Mitch Halleck, who's our official correspondent. Led Malamed, Joe and Keith, Ron Longo. And we've got a wonderful variety of listeners out there who are really passionate indie fans, and it's great to share the indie love, even though that we're not getting much from Disney and Lucasfilm at the moment.
Oh, I know. I was wondering. I bet you're probably envious, even though you're probably as tired of the rumors as Corey and I are. I bet you'd love to hear some Indy 5 rumors stirring around.
Oh, look, I would. It's funny because as I was going to pick up the doing my toy run this morning, I was listening to your latest episode, and you're talking about, rumors and speculation and things like that. And wouldn't that be nice to report on? Even if it's Justin Timberlake wanting to play young Indy, I'd bite.
Hey, yeah, and plus he could do a little musical number too.
He could. Actually, no, I wouldn't.
No, that would be bad.
Well, Ed, why don't you talk to us a little bit about your Star Wars background?
All right. Well, obviously, I'm a little bit older, I think, than you guys, and I was around, luckily, when Star Wars debuted in cinemas in 1977, so I got to see that, and I remember actually seeing a commercial on television for it, and I go, oh my Lord, what is this? I've never seen anything like this, just from a 30-second television ad, and I begged my parents, please, we've got to go see this. And I saw it at a wonderful Village Twin. That was the main theatre in Geelong, which at that point only had 2 cinemas. And I saw that, and they had this beautiful dome display in the foyer where they had really handmade out of toilet rolls and things like that, their version of, TIE fighters and X-Wings hanging around.
Oh, I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. And I was hooked. And then I saw it ridiculous amount of times, and my parents would luckily get me the toys, which I couldn't get enough of. And I remember one, I got my report card. This was in primary school, must have been about 1979, and they got me about 5 or 6 Star Wars figures. Luke in X-Wing, a lot of the Cantina creatures. It was just fantastic, and I've been hooked ever since.
Absolutely, I love it. And for those of you who have been paying attention, and anyone who's just, so if you can't swing a dead cat without running into me talking about how I was on episode 159 of the Indy Cast, and that wasn't quite a year ago, but it was a little bit ago. And I think this is a great little meta communication on podcasting, because Ed was asking me to explain my background in Indiana Jones. Now he's on our show explaining his background on Star Wars. So I love it. I love it. And Ed, some of our listeners may know this, and they may not, but you are an educator as well. Another thing that we love to chat about.
Yes, I am a drama teacher and a multimedia teacher at a Catholic school here, McKillop College in Werribee, which is about a 30-minute drive away from where I live. So I've just been teaching there for about 6 or 7 years. This is another stop on my multiple career paths, who I'm sure will change again after a little while. But yeah, so I teach. It's a little bit different to American high schools. I'm trying to think what's the equivalent of like junior high or middle. You've got middle school, don't you? So
yes, we have middle school. For us is 5th grade, 8th grade. About I'd say 10 to about 13 years old.
Okay, so I teach year 8, which would be the upper end of your middle school, and then I also teach year 10 and 11 and 12, which is VCE, which is our high school equivalent, basically where you get your high school certificate, and then once you get that, you go into university. So these are kids who are about 17 and 18.
So yeah, that's I teach anywhere from 15 to 18. And speaking of teaching, how do you incorporate Star Wars and Indiana Jones in your classroom?
Well, certainly I've got a pastoral class, which is my year 8 kids who basically we touch base every morning and afternoon, and I go on school camp with them and things like that. And my homeroom is decked out with, I've got some King of the Crystal Skull paraphernalia and a lot of Indy posters, as well as some Star Wars posters, and a giant, actually, Pirates of the Caribbean banner, which someone was kind enough to give me from one of the cinemas as well. So I certainly talk about Indy all the time to the students and pop culture in general, and certainly we incorporate into our theatre studies. So certainly some of the plays I write for my year 11s always usually have some sort of Indiana Jones reference in there. So I try and share the love, and certainly in our multimedia classes where I teach podcasting, I certainly give plugs for the Indy Cast, and when we're doing movie poster design, I'm certainly saying the wonderful virtues of Drew Struzan's artwork and the Indy and Richard Amsel as well. His work always gets a heavy rotation in my classes.
Oh, I love it. I mean, your students are lucky to have that. I'll try to incorporate pop culture as much as I can, too. That's great stuff.
That's great, Ed. I love all the different things you do. That just seems like a variety of things. But I got to know, has any of your students written I love you on the outside of their eyelids?
No, they haven't. Luckily, otherwise I'd probably be arrested and never allowed to work in teaching again. So things were a little freer and easier in the 1930s, on college campuses, I think. So, no, they haven't.
Well, that's good to know. I do know one thing you do love, and it's Indiana Jones, the 4th movie, The Crystal Skull, and I wasn't really a big fan of it. A lot of folks weren't really keen on it too much. I know you kind of have a shout out about it. I know you really enjoy it. So I want you to sell me on why Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull is good.
Now, Ed, let me forewarn you. Corey and I have had many long discussions about this, and he knows I'm pro Crystal Skull all the way, so I'm going to need your help on this one.
Oh, look, all I'll say is it's Indiana Jones. Do you need to say? There's nothing more I really need to say.
That's right. I'm sold. So that's it. I'm sold.
I mean, when you think of all the wannabe indie clones out there, and sure, it's not a perfect movie, and as you were discussing with in your last episode about the anticipation of the Phantom Menace and how that could never live up to the original films, and the same with Episode 7 to a certain degree. It's going to be very hard to live up to it. Indy 4 really wasn't going to live up to it, but I think they gave us a lot. We got Indy for one thing. We got Marion back. We got some fantastic action sequences. It was set in a different time. Again, you got to remember it's set in the 50s. It had that there was that mentality of science fiction films were around. There was the communist threat. It mirrored the time, as did the indie films from the 30s, was those sort of pulp serials. So it's got to, reflect that. I think it's just great fun. A lot of people just go, oh, my, it was awful. There was the fridge sequence. Again, he jumped out of a life raft in Temple of Doom. A guy's heart was ripped out and he was still alive. Just lighten up. It's just a movie. Just have fun with it.
And not to mention the fact that God actually came out and burned everybody's faces off, which doesn't happen every day, at least not in Illinois.
No, well, that's true. That's true. I mean, there were those things. So, and look, it made a lot of money. Now, I'm pretty sure it worldwide, it outgrossed the original Iron Man, made about $753 million.
That is correct.
For all these people who keep going, oh, it was awful, there must have been a lot more people who actually went to see it multiple times and really enjoyed it. And certainly a lot of my friends I know really just thought it was good fun. That's what the core of Indy is. It's fun, like Star Wars.
Exactly. Very well said. Thank you.
Well said.
That. And I would say, and I don't know if this is popular or not, but, that's okay. I think I enjoy overall as an experience Crystal Skull more than I enjoy the prequels as a whole. I really do.
I would agree with you.
Now, Revenge of the Sith on its own is its whole separate entity, and that's a conversation for another show. But Crystal Skull is fantastic. It's fun. The chemistry with Marion is unbelievable. But I don't want to take all the Indiana Jones discussion because that is why, ladies and gentlemen, you listen to the Indy Cast because it's fantastic.
Oh, cheers.
So here we go. The special edition. And maybe some of our listeners were perhaps wondering why we're even talking about the special edition. It is a polarizing topic. It has been talked about ad nauseum. The Forcecast, not too long ago, did their own little discussion about the special edition. But here at Coffee with Kenobi, we have not discussed it yet. So Corey and I have been dying to hit all the controversial topics and the fun Star Wars topics. So Ed, since you are our guest here and you're just starting your cup of coffee with us, let's hear your overall opinion of the special edition.
All right. For me, I don't understand. Well, I understand some of the controversies when it comes to the special editions, but I give you this quote from Walt Disney where he says, "Disneyland will never be completed. It will continue to grow as long as there is imagination left in the world."
Wow.
And I think that's the same with Star Wars. It will never be complete. And some people see this as sort of, tinkering. I see it as having a consistency between the trilogies. I don't know about you, Dan, but certainly with my students, if something is either less than 2 years old, the students think it's old hat.
That's right. It might as well be black and white.
Exactly. And they go, I don't want to watch Star Wars. Look at the old hokey visual effects. And you sort of, I do my eye roll and go, really, have you actually watched it? Because, some of those visual effects still stand up today, the ones that haven't been enhanced. But I think it creates this great consistency between both trilogies where you can watch them as one. There's those linking with Love It or Hate It, Hayden Christensen at the end, the removal of the eyebrows, to keep consistent with him being, fried to a crisp.
Sure.
All those sort of things. I think it's a good thing. It keeps it fresh. It keeps it up to date with technology. It's not just Star Wars that does that sort of stuff. I believe you guys have just had the release of The Wizard of Oz in 3D that just opened, I think, this week. That's another way of, creating a special edition, keeping up with these things. And Lucasfilm has been doing this not just since 1997, when they had the updated A New Hope, adding the episode 4 in 1981, doing things like color correction, going from mono to stereo, all these things, trying to make, even from film to DVD to Blu-ray, enhancing all these things. I think it's a good thing, and it keeps the trilogies fresh and in the current generation's mind, so that they can own it as well as us oldies.
Now, before Corey jumps in here, and I'll voice my opinion as well, let me ask you this, Ed. There's a difference, isn't there, between tweaking it for technology's sake and actually editing and changing the purpose and the scope and the theme of a story? And I would question on this: if a story is well done, well told, for instance, let's say Shakespeare's Hamlet. Probably, you're a drama guy. For me, it's the best drama out there. No one seems to need to go in there and tinker with Hamlet, so why do we need to tinker with Star Wars?
Well, okay. I certainly have seen a number of productions of Hamlet where they do change it. They may not change the actual text, but they change the context. They set it in a different time. So they do that. Can you Can you compare Shakespeare with Star Wars?
Not at all. I do have to say, though, about Shakespeare, I know that Star Wars and Hamlet, clearly it's not the same caliber of writing and storytelling. It's just a whole different thing. It's not the same. But I will say Ian Desher's William Shakespeare Star Wars has shown how beautiful the melding of the two worlds is. And as I said to Ian, and we talked about on our interview with Ian, be sure to download that if you haven't, especially Revenge of the Sith lends itself perfectly and beautifully to Shakespeare and the Shakespearean idea of the tragic hero and his fall. But we'll talk about that for another time. I just had to throw that in there.
I know where you're coming from. I think, well, for me, most of the changes aren't that super dramatic, apart from, Han shooting first.
Right. I thought we might talk about that at some point.
Yeah, I figured we would. And, things like that. But ultimately, they're just small, minor changes. And I think that was a bit redundant, small, minor changes. That's why I'm not an English teacher, you see.
There you go. No grading tonight.
Thank goodness. So that I don't think too many of them alter the, I suppose, the original feel and vision of the story.
I have to sort of about 5 examples, but we're going to get to that.
Go for them, please do.
Well, before I do that, my goodness, this is going to be a long show. Corey, what do you think? Coming as a guy, and of course, we in our coffee chat with the guys from the Cantina Cast on our last show, Corey talked about coming to Star Wars, and I'm interested to see, Corey, how you view the special edition versus the original version of it.
Well, honestly, I watched the originals. They're taped off TV, so we had like a VHS tape version of it off TV, and I watched those, and it wasn't perfect all the way through. It was kind of choppy in here and there, but I remember going to the theaters when the special editions came out, just wanting to experience what folks back in 1977 had experienced, and you do. You're right, Ed. You do experience it because the story holds up. It's the magic. It's the storytelling. It's the characters. It holds up. And it was amazing, and I'd definitely go see it in special edition right now. If they put it back in theaters, let's go see it again, because you want that magic, you want that feeling, and that's what it brings to the movie. But I think too, I knew going in, like you say, the new scenes were put in there, and everything was kind of like heightened as far as technology goes. But again, like you said, Ed, technology is advanced, and we need to utilize that technology to update everything and to just fresh everything up and for a new audience. And 20 years later, it's a brand new audience, and obviously I was part of that. So having sit in the theater there and enjoyed it, I did enjoy it. I don't agree with certain things, as we said, Greedo shooting first. I think that's the type of dynamic people get so enraged about, because they're basically tweaking a character trait. As Han was kind of the shoot first, ask questions later type guy, and we enjoyed that. So, I mean, like you said, aside from that, there really wasn't a whole lot, aside from, the Jabba scene and things like that. It's just...
Oh, man, I forgot about that. Oh.
Hey, it got better, at least, that scene.
True, but that's sort of like saying, well, I can't even think of an analogy. It's just so... Here's my thing with the special edition. And maybe this will kind of show you where you two and everyone where I'm at on this. When my son, as he grows up, I've already sort of mapped out in my mind, in my wacky little mind, when I'm going to show him Star Wars, and I'm going to start with Mason with the original trilogy, and I'm going to show him the original non-special edition version with all the original special effects, because you know what? When he's 7 or when he's 6, I'm presuming he'll come to it with this field of view. To him, the special effects will be groundbreaking, because he hasn't been exposed to all these other, CGI and things of that nature. Now, when he gets older, I'm sure we'll switch to the special edition so that he will be able to adapt as the films did. And I do know, as an educator, I'm getting ready to do a unit on King Arthur and the hero's journey through Joseph Campbell. I will show my students the special edition, because like you said, Ed, if a movie's more than 2 years old, students act like it's from the Stone Age, and they expect to see Jimmy Stewart walk onto the screen. So it's a fine line, because you want to draw them in and tie them into the prequels and make the effects blend like that. But from a storytelling perspective, that's where I get a little bit caught up.
No, understandable. I think that a lot of the for a lot of people today, they don't even know. They might not even know that we're talking about what are these special editions, because they're the editions that they've grown up with. And certainly some of the changes, I and I've seen Star Wars, 500 times. I've seen it a lot of times. Some of them I'm going, I had no idea. I can't even remember that. The last time I watched the original was when I actually still had a VHS tape, which I've recorder, which I don't have. I've got the Super 8 film ready to go to watch it, but I know it's crazy. But I'd be happy. Be a lot happier if they'd keep the special editions and get rid of those garbage mats that really bugged me even when I was 7 and 8. I remember going, why were those things around the TIE fighters and X-Wings? So
when you see them on the ads, they're really glaring.
And the transparency of the cockpit when in the snow speeder scene and on the Hoth, things like that, which really took me out of the film. So I'd be interested in what your son actually thinks about that. If he thinks he's watching a Ray Harryhausen movie, or because I'm sure he's going to be exposed to a lot of things between when he gets up to 7 years old from television or going to the movies, things like that. So
I was going to say, and I guess that as a responsible parent, I guess I'm just going to have to keep him on Sesame Street until it's time to watch Star Wars.
And some of the visual effects on Sesame Street, I saw it today where they had a great a True Blood sent up, and they had True Mud. It was great with the Grouch, and it was Grouch BO. It was very funny. Oh, you gotta love that. But some of those visual effects, it's amazing what blue screen they can do these days.
I say that's the thing, and it's hard to know, like you said, as Mason gets older. And Corey has 4 children, and Corey, I assume that you have shown them the special edition, or have they seen the original?
No, they watch special edition because that's all I've got as far as I don't have the original. Shame on me, I know.
No, that's all right. Hey, you just had a Star Wars party, and you had the 501st. I think you're doing pretty good as a dad.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I think we should before we get into our emails, we got some excellent intelligent emails as we always do. Maybe we should just kind of hit the main sources of contention now and just kind of get them out of the way. Corey, let's start with you. What are some of the things? Should we just go ahead and just put it on the table now? The Han Solo Greedo thing. Should we just address that now?
Sure, we can go ahead and talk about that. I mean, that's almost the most glaring thing out there that really changes a whole lot. Like we talked about, there's not a whole lot of things other than making special effects look better and just going in and touching things up and adding a couple things. But that was a scene that basically built a character right there, and it told you who Han Solo was. And to change that, like we talked about, going in and changing that, having Greedo shoot first and Han shoot second, it definitely changes the character's motive and his basically the little side story that's going on there. I mean, we kind of don't really know who Han Solo is. He's kind of a down and dirty guy, and we know that he just doesn't take any crap. And all of a sudden, he's shooting second and kind of playing the good guy. It changes everything around, and I think it's glaring enough to be changed from the original, and it irritates me. It's like going in and changing the S on Superman a little bit sometimes. It's just one of those things you don't touch, in my opinion. But like we talked about, I mean, is it George Lucas's right to go in there and go, yeah, we're going to change that because of X, Y, Z. So that's my thoughts.
Well, and real quickly, again, this whole changing thing, Spielberg, to my knowledge, has never gone on and made Jaws CGI. He changed E.T. and changed it back because he couldn't stand it. He's never tweaked anything on Raiders except for removing the glass from the Cobra and the Well of Souls. So that's where I have a hard time with this. But as far as Greedo and Solo, of course, Han Solo is the space cowboy. Just like you said, this defines his character. There's no reason to make him a little more vanilla or a little more family-friendly when a few years later you're going to create a hero that everyone's going to love and buy action figures of who kills a bunch of younglings. So if you're that concerned about making it family-friendly and absorbing Han Solo into the zeitgeist of family culture, keep him the way that he was. Ed, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I agree. I mean, it never bothered me as a 7-year-old kid, that he shot Greedo in cold blood. If I assume he's got blood, Greedo. It didn't, that didn't bother me at all. And I agree with Corey. It does sort of alter to some degree the essence of the character. But he again, Lucas has been doing this as well with regards to getting rid of a lot of the muzzle flares on when they were shooting in the Death Star detention area, where they got rid of a lot of the flames that actually come out when the Imperials are hit. Little edits like that, which has sort of been sanitizing it. Yet you get Luke gets his hand cut off. Everyone seems to get there's decapitations. There's things going on like that. So I really don't know why. I really don't know why he did it. And then of course Lucas taunts us with his wonderful Han, shot first T-shirt that he wears around occasionally.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So I think it was on the Phantom Menace, the documentary when he was there filming. He's wearing that T-shirt, and you're just going, gee, he likes messing with us nerds a little bit, I think.
And you almost can't. I almost feel like because every time this comes out again, he tweaks it just a little bit more. It's almost like it's just like that pride in the way. I just can't quite change it because everyone's made such an uproar over this. I hope that's not the case. Maybe he does really have a narrative reason why, but from a story standpoint and a characterization standpoint, it just doesn't fit his character. It doesn't establish him quite as strongly. He at that point he really is a shoot first, ask questions later kind of a guy. And then Leia kind of softens him in the rebellion, and he opens up his eyes to a whole new world, and that's what changes him.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You wouldn't get John Wayne asking questions first, would you?
Exactly, and I think obviously that's what he's supposed to emulate, or Clint Eastwood, or heck, he could make it anachronistic and talk about John Jackson Miller's Kenobi and that whole cowboy space vibe to it. Have you read Kenobi, by the way?
I haven't. I'm struggling to find time to read anything, and with the EU novels, I sort of dropped off the wagon when it came to, I can't even, the last series that was out that went for about 7 or 8
books. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I do enjoy the expanded universe, and I've read pretty much everything up to that series. I just I couldn't face it.
I understand. Yeah, anything post Return of the Jedi after Zahn, I don't really have a lot of time for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing that besides the Jabba scene, which we probably all agree is atrocious, although I am interested in your thoughts, the thing that bugs me the most, what I don't hear anyone talking about, is the Krat Dragon or the Crate Dragon, however you want to pronounce it.
I had that on my list of things.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, go ahead.
That annoyed me only because I love that sound effect, and I remember it so well from the film's release, and I've used it in plays as well because I usually have a star with that and the Wilhelm screen I usually throw in there, and probe droids and things like that, which I used in the Wizard of Oz. Long story, but I really like that sound effect, and it never bugged me. How did he actually, use his vocal stylings to create that? I figured he projected it into their minds, something like that to enhance it. But yeah, I do miss that.
Oh, and even the keychains with the sound effects they were giving at San Diego Comic-Con had the original sound, at least that's how it sounded to me. And then every time they get it, it gets more and more shrill, and it's almost like, are they trying to match it up with Creatures from Revenge of the Sith? I don't know, but that's horrible. I don't have a lot of time for that one.
Again, that's something that most people new to it wouldn't even know. But I agree, some of these sounds that just sort of resonate with you.
Yes,
and I think that's one of them.
And maybe that's it. Maybe it's just a part of us growing up. But you said you thought you were a lot older than us. So I'm about to turn 41 here in a couple of days. So I think we're pretty close in age.
Yeah. I just turned 43, so we're in the same ballpark.
Oh, there you go. Corey's
I'm a youngling. Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Well, also talking about sound effects, you guys. George Lucas did add in the bonk on the head of the stormtrooper as he walks into the control room there.
Oh, yes.
And he added that. He actually made the flaw where he walks in the door, the gate goes up, and the stormtrooper hits his head. I think he added in like a sound effect was like a bonk or something like that. So
yeah, the cosmetic stuff and what you were saying, Ed, about changing the special effects and modernizing them, I don't have a problem with any of that. I think it's really it's great that we have the technology that we can do that stuff. It's more the story stuff. So let's just talk about Jabba now. And the fact, maybe even as jarring to me anyways, is the appearance of Boba Fett in A New Hope.
It was a little obvious, him walking, and I think I wouldn't have minded if he just walked past the camera, but to actually, break the fourth wall and, give us a sort of, hey, look, I'm here, sort of, look, was a little bit over the top. But I've got to say, I was just pretty excited to see that footage. I'm going, oh, wow, look, it's I haven't seen this with Han Solo. Any more scenes with Han Solo I'm up for. So
true. And that's the trick. It's almost like you want more of the originals and the original crew and cast and all that, but then you just throw in this unusual Jabba thing, which they have tweaked and perfected. But yeah, Boba Fett with the fourth wall, and then I guess Rick McCallum, I believe, was in the armor for that. He was the producer for all the prequels. He was in the armor for that. I don't know if that was just his opportunity to get on the camera. But I think what's even worse with Boba Fett is in Return of the Jedi when they have to show him in Jabba's palace flirting with all of the females. I don't know that I needed that to enhance his character at all.
No, I suppose it gives him that sort of, badass sort of style. He's one with the ladies as well as, that sort of gangster style. Yeah. That didn't bother me too much. I wish they would have kept in Droopy McCool and
absolutely,
and Max Rebo though.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I used to know all the lyrics in Huttese for that.
So, wow.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't even think about it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this will have to be phase one of many cups of coffee. Yeah, and I'm not a full hater on it. I mean, I do like I like how they expand Mos Eisley. Obviously, the ending Death Star sequence is brilliant. That's very enjoyable. We've been talking a lot about the negative, at least I have. So let's talk about the things that we really enjoy specifically. And it doesn't have to be all about A New Hope either, even though those are the most glaring ones.
I like the little things that I liked how they've added the to the Blu-rays that the Ewoks blink.
Yeah, that's fun.
I think that's a really good way to help sell them. Not that you ever think that it's Warwick Davis in there in a costume. He sells it. His character is fantastic. But just that, I think, just really adds to it. The same with adding the eye to the Dianoga. The blinking to that again just adds that level of realism. And I do like that they got rid of the English as well in some of the. I think it's in the on the tractor beam where they had when Obi-Wan's doing that. So they got rid of the English and they put in the Aurebesh, and I think that's again for this whole consistency sort of thing. But I really love how they and I couldn't believe it how they opened up Cloud City. They got rid of just those corridors and they put in all those windows. So you can actually see the environment that they're in, and it makes it, I think, for a more realistic sort of. You believe that it's a city in the clouds, as opposed to just these corridors in a sound studio. And it's nice to see the ice cream man running around. I like it.
That's right. It's good to know that he's there. Yeah, yes. And of course, when they leave Mos Eisley, the Falcon taking off from Mos Eisley, that's a pretty spectacular scene. That's pretty cool. The stormtroopers on Tatooine look Sir droids. That's a nice scene. And then let's see what else. Corey, what are some things that you like about the special edition? I agree that the Ewoks blinking is fine, and surprisingly, I can't believe I felt this way when it happened. But Vader's scream at the end of Jedi, I actually thought was very powerful. It actually gave me goosebumps. I never thought I would have felt that way.
I think I agree with you guys. The special effects Lucasfilm does a great job with special effects. It's obviously top notch, and they do a great job of the extra scenes and things. And like you said, anything extra we can see into the movie, I'd love to see it. Let's check it out. And I think like I said, Millennium Falcon taking off. I even like they expanded Mos Eisley and the whole the Jawas were falling off that.
I'm torn on that.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I'm very much a purist.
Oh, okay.
It was a little. Hey, we could have had Jar Jar walking through, stepping on some bantha voodoo.
Yeah. Yes. Well, here's the thing. Besides the Krat Dragon, I think maybe more so than that, the number one thing I don't like is at the end of The Empire Strikes Back, and I actually heard Jimmy Mack talking about this. He's the only one I've ever heard talk about this. When Vader is leaving, and he's just had his confrontation with Luke, and Luke throws himself off the pier, in the special edition, he says, "Alert my Star Destroyer for my arrival." And you can tell the timbre of the voice sounds different. But in the original version, he says very quietly, "Bring my ship." And there's just a powerful grace to that. There's this big, hulking man, maybe the most powerful person in the galaxy, and he's been emotionally wounded in a way that he probably hasn't since the death of his wife. I thought that was a beautiful scene. And they took it out to plug some ideas. Hey, let's buy some more die-cast Star Destroyers. Here's the name of one. That really, I think that's maybe the biggest crime, if there is, if we can say crime. That's probably too strong of a word. That's the one that affects me probably the most.
See, I remember the addition of the scene, but I can't recall the exact dialogue because it's been such a long time since I've watched the original. So I didn't mind. I thought, I get to see a little bit more. But I can understand your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, Corey, go ahead.
I was going to jump in there and say that the addition of the new hologram of the Emperor was a nice addition, I think.
That was cool. That did add to the narrative.
It added to it. It didn't look like he just a blob on the screen, and I always thought it was he looked like he was just sick or something. I don't know. His eyes are all bulging and stuff from the original, but now it's
fancy.
Yeah,
I know. I had no idea when they had. Firstly, I had no idea that was a woman, and then with chimpanzee eyes attached, what were they smoking that that day when they thought?
Who knows? Who knew that the Emperor was a crossdresser at the time?
True. Well, what do you think then about changing Fett's voice?
And that's what I was going to bring up too. I think I'm on the fence on that one because I love the original where he's so short and he's almost a different voice, different character, and then to see him as obviously the clone voice, it just makes me feel like Boba Fett isn't his own character. Similar with the original A New Hope scenes where he's kind of his lackey, and that's not his character. That's not him. He's kind of his own guy. He does his own thing. Having his own voice gives him his own character, and I love that. So I think I guess I'm against that. So
interesting. And that, again, I say this a million times, but that's why discussion is so great because you find yourself thinking about it as you're going along. Back to Boba Fett with the ladies. To me, Boba Fett is the kind of guy that's such a mystery. He doesn't have time for relationships. He's too focused on the mission. He's not anybody's lackey. He's the ultimate loner. And then when you talk about his voice, I really am of two minds on it because I can hear perfectly in my mind, I'm sure you can too, Ed and Corey, just how he sounded in the originals. Just had a very cool, strong voice to him. And they changed it. And I understand why that works. It makes sense. They want to try to make sure that it sounds like the clones to fit into the story. This has always been my thing about the prequels. You should have made the prequels match what came before. Don't go in and change the originals to match what you did later. To me, that's I hate to say this, but it's kind of sloppy storytelling.
I agree. I think also too, like I said, Boba Fett, he might be a clone, but he's a bounty hunter. He's not a stormtrooper. He's not a clone trooper. He's a bounty hunter, and you got to figure he's been through a lot to build up to this point. Like you said, he's a one-man show. He just kind of he's short with his words. He doesn't talk a whole lot, and honestly, he gets in Vader's face. I mean, he takes on Vader, and that's you don't do that. I mean, and to change the voice, it kind of made it just kind of like he's just another character in the show. So.
Well, do you think maybe he was just, he finally captured Han Solo, so now he's just thinking, hey, now I can finally relax a little bit.
That's true. Well, I like that. That actually kind of works.
Yeah,
I can see that. I think what we should do. I'm looking here at some of our emails, and they're bringing up some things that we haven't talked about quite yet. Our first one is from Aaron Harris, our first ever contest winner of our Coffee with Kenobi T-shirt, and Aaron, I promise you, we are going to get that shirt out to you. That's a story for another time. But I'm going to summarize some of the main points that he has. He says, to be honest, I find myself on both sides of the fence. On one hand, I love the improvements to the effects and background that Lucas did to the original trilogy. I feel they gave the movies more detail and made it more engaging. Whether it is the expanded Mos Eisley in A New Hope or the increased footage of Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back, to the montage of celebration at the end of Return of the Jedi, they all add to the movie, and I find them even more enjoyable. It didn't even bother me when he switched Sebastian Shaw for Hayden Christensen at the end of Jedi. Now, before I continue with Aaron's email, that's a pretty big change that we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
Sebastian Shaw and Hayden Christensen, that actually opens up a lot of critical thinking concepts about Force Ghosts. And what do you think, guys?
Well, look, at what point in your life do you stay that as a Force ghost? So Ben Kenobi, technically, I suppose he looked like he did when he passed on. He didn't look like Ewan McGregor.
True.
So Yoda looked like Yoda when he died. So you assume, just based on what we can see, you would assume that it's at the point that you die or the point you were, I suppose, redeem yourself. Yeah, I can see why he did it. Again, that consistency. Oh, kids go, oh, okay, now I can, make the leap. But was it needed? I don't know. It was good for Hayden Christensen. He got in Return of the Jedi. How cool is that?
Oh, that's great. And maybe this is the thing that gnaws a little bit at me. I'm sure that somewhere, if Brian Romersberger is listening to this, he and I went to Celebration 3 together, and he probably listened to me for 3 hours talking about the special edition, so I'm sure he's rolled his eyes so much he has a headache right now. But when you're changing them, there's two possible outcomes, I guess. One, maybe you are a Force ghost the last time you were with the light side of the Force, but even that doesn't work because Sebastian Shaw, very briefly, once he's redeemed, let me look on you with my own eyes, he was very much in the light side of the Force at that point as well. So it's a bit up in the air, and I think this is the thing about Hayden Christensen and Boba Fett's voice and things like that. At some point, when do you acknowledge that your audiences are intelligent enough to bridge the gap in their minds themselves, and they don't need it quite spelled out for them like these changes do?
I think that change, that's one of the up there with the kind of like we talked about Han is one of the bigger changes. To me, it was like you said, let me look on you with my own eyes. Right there, you could see, it was his returning to form, the light side, and then also I thought too when he appears at that final scene and Luke looks over and sees all three of them, is he going to be like, oh, who's that guy in the middle? I mean, I don't know who that is. I think obviously he does, but I just think it's like, oh, it's just a younger version of him. That's just odd. He's like my age. So I don't know. It's strange for me because I guess I started with the original trilogy, and that's only as unmasking of Vader. All I know is that face of Sebastian Shaw, and it's kind of like you said, for the fans to not make that jump or say, oh, we get it. It's just kind of like spelling it out for them. It's like, I don't know. I try and make a connection. Maybe for newer fans to say, hey, he's changed. He's made some, he's back to the light side now, and he's back to younger when he was better. We don't know about Force Ghosts. I guess it's still a topic I think that needs to be discussed.
And Ed, what do you think? Is this a kind of a dumbing down of major plot points, or is that too strong?
Oh, look, I don't know if it's a dumbing down of it. I mean, I think the new audiences would have made the leap. They obviously know that they saw it, 5-10 minutes previously that is Anakin Skywalker there, and now he's fine. He doesn't look too dissimilar. So, look, I don't know whether it's a dumbing down of it. It's just, it's probably one of those changes that aren't really necessary. It probably sounded like a great idea at the time. We've got Hayden here. We're doing Revenge of the Sith. Let's get him in to have a nice bookend, I suppose. But technically, couldn't they have little Anakin?
Jake Lloyd.
Why isn't Jake? I mean, of course, because you wouldn't see his head above the railing, unless he could be sitting up there with Yoda, up on the railing, going yippee.
Well, Ed, that's so wizard of you. That's so wizard.
Yeah, but it doesn't. I suppose it doesn't bug me that much, but I can see how it could.
Yeah, and that's it's maybe it's just the literature guy in me. It's just it eats at me. Aaron brings up something else. He's talking about Han and Greedo. He says The change in character in that one scene contradicts everything that comes later. Not wanting to leave the communication room until Luke told him about the reward, getting the reward, then bailing on the rebellion before the attack, and the worst part, it cheapens the redemption of his character in the end when he swoops in to save the day at the end of the Battle of Yavin. And Aaron, that is an excellent point. I did not think about that, but that does make a difference, doesn't it?
I think it does. I mean, I would say that, leaving someone behind as opposed to killing them is, different. So you could, maybe argue that point, but I agree. It does. I mean, for me, it doesn't change his character because I've been lucky enough to see him shoot first, many a time. So, and the difference between the shooting is getting it's almost instantaneous now. So I'm sure when they, release it in Ultra HD, in the near future on whatever that format's going to be, it'll hopefully go back to Han shooting first.
So let's move on to Shane Greer. He has a real quick email. I'm just going to share the whole thing. He says, "First, thanks for reading my email on the show. The old heart palpitated slightly when I heard my name and message read on air. Happened once before when your future guest Ed Dolista did so on the great Indy Cast. Well, hey, what do you know about that? So now on to the business at hand, the special editions in your episode 6 discussion. I want to be honest and tell you that I am a GL apologist. That being said, it's his creation, and if he wants to throw in a do-back over here or even the horror, have Han seem a little less aggressive by shooting nearly simultaneously with Greedo, that's fine with me. It in no way takes away the mythology or the story being told on screen. What gets me is how a lot of the improved technical aspects are discarded during these types of conversations. The mats during space scenes or flying over the Hoth landscapes are less visible, if not gone completely, allowing for a better escapism experience for the viewer. I could go on, but you guys are more knowledgeable than I on these issues. Well, Shane, I don't know about that, but I'm thinking that this discussion we've had so far is going to make you feel a little bit better because we've talked a lot about the technology that really has enhanced the film.
As he said, those things that don't pull you out of the experience while you're seeing the film, I'm certainly all for those. And again, most of the people who saw Star Wars in the original theater, I'm pretty sure those garbage mats weren't there. That was only sort of an after effect of putting it on VHS and DVD. Can you confirm that? Anyone? Is that true? I never remembered seeing those garbage mats in the cinema. But
they were there.
I remember were they there?
Yeah, they were there. Because I remember seeing it in the drive-in, and maybe just the drive-in had its own kind of a very old print. Well, the original print, I guess you could say. But yeah, they were there.
And so, just as an aside, one of my fondest memories was seeing Star Wars at the drive-in on a beautiful summer's night, where the stars and the drive-in screen blended in, and I could swear that those X-Wings and TIE Fighters were going to fly off the screen and fly around the drive-in. It was spectacular. Spectacular.
See, well, I was going to say, even right there, that just sums it up right there, that comment. I mean, yeah, you can update the special edition and do all you want and tweak here and there, but it doesn't pull you out of the story all that much as far as, those memories will live with you forever. You can't take those away. So I think that's what it's all about.
I was going to say, I think George Lucas is probably uploading something to my brain about now. It's retrograding them. So, hold on, what? Jar Jar's in there now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and we're okay with that. And you know what? And the thing about these movies is that they're going to outlive all of us. I mean, they're in the can. They're going to outlive all of us. It would have been interesting to have this discussion with someone who saw the prequels before they saw the original trilogy, because we probably have a much different conversation. I will say this. As far as nothing can take away our memories, when this first happened, a lot of people were Lucas is trying to take away my childhood, which is, of course, absolutely ridiculous. I will say, though, it probably wouldn't be the worst thing ever to, and he already did this one time, but maybe for the Blu-ray, to release the original unadjusted, we'll say, editions, just to have on DVD, just for from a film historic point of view.
Absolutely.
Well, I do question, Star Wars is being put in the vault as one of the top 100 AFI, not AFI, was it the American Film Institute So it's in there, but I'd like to. I assume it's the actual 1977 version. It's not the special edition version. So, if that still holds up as one of the greatest films of all time, it's pretty all right in my book. Even if you've got garbage mats or Han shooting first.
Yes, I've actually always wondered about that. I wonder in their vault which version they have. But surely they have the 77.
You would think so, though. I did read or heard somewhere where George Lucas saying basically that version doesn't exist anymore, but I find that hard to believe.
Oh, I do too. Well, this is also the same guy that said his story was only 6, and it was 9, and then it's 12, and now, maybe something happened with his calculator. I don't know. Gar Van Orden has a very passionate email that I really want to read a little smidge of. He says, he kind of calls us out on the carpet for it. I'm glad he is. He says, of course, it is only natural to fear change, but some fans refuse to actually follow the teachings of Star Wars. And of course, we all know what fear leads. GL himself would say the main point of Star Wars is to leave your uncle's moisture farm and get on with your life. Yet there are still fans that are stuck in the past. They don't let go of all they fear to lose. Even now, we move into a new era with Disney, which can be scary for some. Let's see how many angry, hateful things we hear from people that are suffering. The analogy of comparing GL making changes in the special edition to touching up a painting has been made before and is very apt. I've done my share of painting. I took a class in college, but then when he goes on to say, even now there are paintings on the walls of your house that you want to take down and touch up, the difference here is you didn't release these paintings out to millions and millions of people that enjoyed them, then take them back and change them and give them back again, even though you might like to. What do you think about that, guys? This is back to the idea of the artist. At what point, when does the art become everyone's, or is it always just the artist's?
I think, yes, that is George Lucas's property, if you want to call it that, or artwork, or his dream, if you want to call it.
His creation.
His creation, right. I mean, he's the guy who had the idea, who went in production, who got the money, who made the film, who hired the actors. He put it all in motion. So for him to do that, I'm glad he did. He has the right to go in and touch things up. And it's a medium where we talked about, it's an ever-changing technology. We're constantly updating, our iPhones are constantly updating. We're going to the newest, better edition, getting bigger, better, faster, stronger. And I think that's what...
More intense.
Yeah, sure. He has the right to do it, I think. And us as fans, we have the right to complain, really. But, it's up to him, and everybody makes mistakes, and everybody tries things out, and maybe he, in his mind, he doesn't like it either. We don't know a whole lot, really, as far as what he likes and what he doesn't like. But maybe he's trying some things out, and he's like, well, let's see if this will work. And, and I think, our apprehension for the new Star Wars movies we're exactly back in that same boat. I mean, not everybody wants J.J. Abrams to direct it. Not everybody wants, these to be made and jump in, but we're going to do it anyway, and I'm glad for it because we want to see new stuff. We want to see what happens. Like you said, we want to see new scenes of possibly scenes were cut from the originals. We want to see it out, play it out, and just see how it goes. And everybody's entitled to their opinion, but when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's George Lucas's baby, and he can kind of mold it how he sees.
So Corey, before Ed jumps in, Ed's going to have an interesting perspective on this with his background and his performances in theater. Corey, you're an author.
Yes.
Would you ever go back and change your books?
No, I don't think so. I think you can continuously edit, until the day you die, and constantly try to make it perfect. But if you don't get it out there and get readers' hands, and then obviously you get feedback, people who like it, people who hate it, you cannot progress further on as a creative person. I think too, it's as creative people, we're constantly tweaking ourselves as far as our next project, our next assignment, and you guys as educators are obviously tweaking your educational materials to update it to make it the best to do the best you can, the job you can as your position, as your profession.
Well, I know it's funny because I did a play in 2000 called, it was the Robin Hood Trilogy Special Editions, which was basically we did Robin Hood we did 3 Robin Hood plays, and we're packaging them all together with a 4th play, Robin Hood 4, Flogging a Dead Horse, and our tagline was new scenes, new sounds, same jokes, to go along with the special edition poster and advertising that came out. Ironically, is that I'm prepping the first Robin Hood that we did, Robin Hood the Untold Story, for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival for next year. And I'm going through with my co-writer, and we're changing it. This is the script that we originally did. Basically, we've got to make some changes. We've got to cut some, because we've got to cut some actors out. We're updating some of the jokes so that they're a little bit more, they've got more, I suppose, the pop culture references in there are a little bit more current.
No more Leave It to Beaver references.
Well, yeah. Well, we were a little bit more current. I was thinking more HR puff and stuff, but things like that. So I think there. Sometimes it's good to go and revisit your old material to invigorate it, give it a new life. But again, our show wasn't loved by millions worldwide, and people have this, I suppose, feel this ownership towards it. How dare he change that, which is because I love that. But it's him, it's George Lucas. He created it, and I think I'm glad it's he's making these changes. If you talk about altering works of art or things like that, Shakespeare, they're not around anymore to do those. So I think we've got a good opportunity. George Lucas said once that the original films were only a small % of his original vision. And they never, due to either technology limitations or things like that, he never really had the opportunity to make them how he wanted to. I think at this point we've got them as they will be forever. I don't think George Lucas is that hands-on anymore, with him, stepping down, with Kathleen Kennedy in charge, with Disney. I don't think we'll be getting any more changes, and I don't think we'll be getting J.J. Abrams, coming in and making any changes to retrofit the prequels or retrofit the original trilogy for Episode 7. So, and just on the record, I think as a fan, a huge fan of Star Trek Into Darkness, I think and Super 8, he's going to do a bang-up job. He's going to be fantastic as director.
Well, thank you for saying that, because Corey and I were just talking about why out of nowhere is everyone all of a sudden hating on Star Trek Into Darkness? It was a great film.
I agree.
I loved it. I think I could get in. There's so many complaints with that film. And I know this. I know this isn't Coffee with Khan either, so we won't go into. We won't go into that.
I knew when we had you on, we were going to have a lot of good puns, and you have not disappointed, my friend.
So, where they're saying, oh, well, the female characters maybe aren't that strong, and, that Uhura is just talking about relationships all the time. Well, that's what people do as well. It's not all action. That's right. We're seeing different slices of the characters, and the twist, how people didn't. I assume it's on Blu-ray or available in the States now, so it's not too many, spoilers. But things like that. Oh, they didn't like how they played on the twist with Wrath of Khan. Well, it's an alternate timeline, but it's still linked to the original timeline. So I liked how they played with all these different, turning things upside down, and Kirk's a womanizer as well, and you see him with his shirt off. But no one, all these things that people latch onto, just little moments. It's something that goes for 1 second here, 2 seconds there, that. Overall, it's a rollicking good adventure, and it's certainly a lot better than, in my opinion, than the majority of the original films.
Absolutely.
Mind you, I do have a soft spot for Star Trek V, but don't hate me for that. So,
between that and Crystal Skull, you've got quite a little profile for yourself.
I know. I'm gonna get hate mail. In fact, there's someone calling me now saying, "How dare I talk about?"
It's George Lucas.
Yeah, that's right. It's George Lucas again. Oh dear. That's right. I should say that I do love Radioland Murders, so hopefully he'll he's hung up now, so that's all right.
He's probably going to do a special edition of Radioland Murders.
That's right. That's right. Which again was really a groundbreaking film.
Yes.
It was in that it was I suppose a test ground for all the digital visual effects that they ended up using on the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Well, there you go. That's got a nice synergy to it.
That's right.
And Corey and I we had a show over talking about Star Trek Into Darkness, so if you haven't heard that yet, please go ahead and download that and listen to it for our views on that. I want to move on to Craig Dickinson's email. Craig is a fellow educator. Actually, he and I have exchanged a lot of lesson plans recently. He's a good guy, to interact with for education in Star Wars. Here's something that he brings up. He complains about some of the things that we don't like as well. He says, I still cringe when Han steps on Jabba's tail in A New Hope and during Jedi Rocks in Return of the Jedi. Yes, Jedi Rocks, horrible. But if those are the trade-offs for having Ian McDiarmid in the Empire and Boba having the same voice as Jango and the clones, I'm good with that. And then he says, as far as the versions themselves, I'd say the Blu-ray is an improvement over the previous editions. Not only is it the pinnacle of audio and video Star Wars presentations, but it ties together the saga in new ways. The Dug in Jabba's Palace, Digital Yoda and the Phantom Menace, and even Vader's No only enhance the continuity of the saga. I do believe that the reason many people fail to appreciate the change is the same reason some underappreciate the prequels, attachments to the memories of the original trilogy. As someone who regularly shows the special editions and the prequels to students who have no such attachment, I see nothing but awe at both. Well, Craig, that's a great email for us to look at. What do you think, guys? I really like the idea of you kind of take the good with the bad, and there's nothing but beauty in the story. And I know he teaches sixth grade, and he shows all 6 films go through the hero's journey and does a lot of great stuff with that. And the kids are eating it up, special edition or not.
How can I get in that class? That is fantastic. Right. I've got to go to school and watch Star Wars? My gosh.
Absolutely.
I think it's definitely what we've been saying this entire time. It's definitely builds experiences. And that's what Star Wars is all about, building experiences, whether it's special edition or Blu-ray or whatever, what have you. The story's still there. The characters are still there. We still love them and we still hate them as far as who they are. But I think it's a great thing to have in the classroom. And I never grew up with that. I think it's a wonderful thing. I remember watching some movies in high school and things like that, and they had a great impact at that age. Is so formidable as far as building who you are, your character, yourself, and you can build on who you are as far as the characters that are on the screen.
I agree. I think he's right in saying that the Blu-rays are at their peak, and they're the best we'll ever. At this stage of the technological game, are the best that we've got, and if it's adding new scenes and I'm all for it, because like most Star Wars fans, you can't get enough. You want more and more. If they were 4 hours long, we'd probably say bring on some more, please.
Right, I agree, and I didn't bring this up before, but Ed, you had mentioned the idea of, oh my gosh, I just lost it. Well, it was a really good point, Ed, and I just can't remember what it was.
and I had such a scintillating response. It was fantastic.
I was gonna make a great joke too, but that's all right.
Yeah, well, yeah. You should. It's like we're doing fishing stories. Our last email is from Melinda. Melinda, our new feature blogger on coffeewithkenobi.com. She says, I can understand George Lucas's desire to remake the films so they can more closely resemble what he wanted to create the first time around. Erin, I believe that's her daughter, started making her own movies when she was 11 years old. And right from the onset, she had to learn that sometimes she'd have to compromise on some facet of the film just to get it done. She never had much of a budget, and she always had to make do with the locations she had available to her. You know what? This taught her to improvise, to be creative in her approaches to getting a project done. While the end product might not exactly be what one imagined, it is a testament of how dedicated one is or can be to see a project through from beginning to end. I certainly think it is important to learn how to improvise, since there are times through one's life when everything will not fall perfectly into place. In George Lucas's situation, he had the finances to go back and make episodes 4, 5, and 6 closer to his original vision. We should all be so lucky. It's the nature of the beast, and with first-hand experience in this matter, Erin can relate and understand. I think that's made her a better editor. So I guess you could take this as a learning thing as well. Here's the main thing, guys, and Ed, I had sent you a couple of podcasts of the Film Talk, and I'm not sure how many you're able to get through. But here's what the guys said, and they were talking about a lot of the summer movies like Man of Steel and Pacific Rim, which I seem to be the only sci-fi geek who doesn't like Pacific Rim. This is how they talk about it. If you take the special effects away from the movie, is it still a great story? Is it still something you're invested in emotionally and intellectually? Is it still a film that you enjoy? And if you look at it from that perspective, well, Pacific Rim is obviously way out. But when you look at, if you take that angle, that attitude about it, there's no reason for the special editions. Or is there? What do you think? Everyone's minds just explode.
Well, to think about it, like you said, take away all the special effects. And obviously, films nowadays are built on special effects. Like you said, Pacific Rim was, 90% special effects. And so it's...
And 100% garbage.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion.
Really? Really?
Yes. Oh, my. I mean, okay, there are no strong female characters in that. The one female character needs two men. She has to depend on two men her entire life. She's a caricature of an Asian female action hero. I found the main character to be vacuous, and there just wasn't an important story to tell. And plus, again, I think people missed this when I talked about it before, but the actors who play the scientists look like Marty McFly's dad and J.J. Abrams.
I know he looked like J.J. Abrams, yes. But hold on, but going into, sorry, I'm on a tangent.
Go for it.
Going into Pacific Rim, and I won't get started on those two, the characters, the father and son who looked identical and identical ages, who I thought were British, but apparently were supposed to be Australian, who, yes. No, everyone in our cinemas just cringed basically when they heard those guys. But, going in to it, we're not seeing Schindler's List. We're seeing a film about giant robots and giant, dinosaurs essentially. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to give it a pass on what it never tried to be any, high art. That's my opinion. And it was fun, but yeah, something definitely was missing with that. I will give you that. So it's no Howard the Duck. Let's say that.
No. What is? That's the thing. It doesn't have to be high art. There just has to be some. I mean, there has to be something that is said. For me, there has to be some sort of interesting intellectual change in character, or just something that stimulates you. I mean, Animal House isn't high art, but it's darn funny, and it is what it appears to be. I think there just seems to be this popular movement to elevate Pacific Rim to this high level of science fiction goodness that I just missed out on. But we're digressing, I suppose.
Yeah, I think some films it's hard to the special effects are so entwined in the story, and I think the visual effects are entwined in Star Wars, but they're not there as special effects. They're there, to help tell the story, and I think without it, maybe that some of the story elements will be lost. But ultimately, you've got such good characters, engaging characters that you care for. In situations that are interesting and you want to find out what happens, I think Star Wars would work without them.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the effects are what drew a lot of people to it because they'd never seen anything like it. But as you said, it's the characters and their relationships. What some have said is lacking from the prequels. That's what makes the original trilogy, special edition, Blu-ray edition, original, whatever you want. That's what makes it the films that we know and love.
Mm. Do you think people back in 1977 thought Star Wars was today's Pacific Rim?
Oh, I'm sure there were some. That's a good question.
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of visual effects, or the way Dan's looking at it?
Well, well, obviously there was a lot more character studies, but special effects, like you said, it was top of the line back then. It was like something you'd never seen before, and obviously Pacific Rim is top notch. It looks great on screen, and I think it's like you said, you throw it out because it's like, oh, it's not believable. But some people could go into Star Wars in 1977 and think, really, are they doing all this stuff? I mean, this doesn't make sense, So
I'm gonna guess no, because the trash compactor, there's real drama there. It's just two walls coming together and a lot of great camera angles in John Williams' score. When you're watching Pacific Rim, you're thinking, "Oh, here's some more CGI." I never thought anybody was in real danger. No,
apart from the audience.
Apart from the audience.
Yeah, getting motion sickness.
Yeah. Or because they felt the way I did when I saw it. Oh, man. So, any final thoughts, guys, on the special edition? I think we've covered it really well. As I said, it's a polarizing topic with some great feedback from our listeners. Any final wrap-ups, guys?
I'd probably encourage listeners to, if they have the opportunity, to watch the original, if they have it, and then watch the special edition and see, that's really the best way to compare and see what their thoughts are after that. Because sometimes, it's that wonderful rose-colored glasses where you look back on a film and go, oh, wasn't that wonderful? And I really loved the way they did this. But, you can improve on it sometimes. And I think the special editions, for the most part, does improve on what was already pretty close to perfect.
I absolutely agree with that. And I think we should definitely go back and revisit the original trilogy and special edition just to see the changes and say, oh, he changes that because of this reason. It's going to constantly be a debate in fandom, but I think definitely a good thing.
My final thoughts, I pretty well covered it. There are a lot of things that I'm okay with that I like. I don't think it needed to happen. I still don't think it needed to happen. I think blending the special effects is great. I mentioned the Darth Vader thing at the end of Empire, the dialogue that I didn't like. Of course, Pratt Dragon, no thank you. Jabba, no thanks. Han Solo, famously, yes, we don't like that either. That being said, it's not the end of the world. We are talking about Star Wars, which is a heck of a lot of fun. Clearly, it has not tainted my enjoyment of it. And in fact, sometimes it's great. One of the great things about Star Wars is all the discussions that resonate from it and the debates and the topics. And fans, intelligent fans, like the Star Wars fans, they just have different ways of looking at things. And it makes room for a great coffee chat, I think.
Absolutely. Now, one more question. If they came out with a prequel trilogy special edition, would you go see it?
Of course.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
We didn't even talk about the fact that, and a lot of people don't talk about this either, when they redid, I have the VHS of Phantom Menace, and surprisingly, the pod racing scene is about, 6 minutes less than it is in the DVD now, because they introduced all the characters, and they had, you got to sell the action figures. I would have been happy with them eliminating that part as well. I really wish they'd come out with an ultimate director's cut where you could cut and paste whatever you want and make your own definitive version.
That'd be cool.
Did that pod racing stuff? Did you guys notice that?
I didn't know that.
I noticed the extra footage, and I quite like that because I think that's they still made it quite a dynamic sequence in my mind. But I mean, there's a few changes. I mean, obviously changing the awful Yoda puppet to the CG, I think was a great thing. There's still one chonky background when Darth Maul, they're in the Theed hangar, and it opens up. There's one shonky background that looked like I could have done better on After Effects that I really don't know how that sort of slipped through. But, and all the special effects in the world isn't going to make up for some wooden acting and some clunky dialogue, so I don't think they'd be able to change too much. That was a bit harsh, but having said that, I still love the prequels, and they're all part of the Star Wars saga. It's again just my connection with the original trilogy that has me steering towards Luke, Han, and Leia as opposed to Jar Jar, Anakin and
Padme,
that guy with a big beard.
Sio Bibble.
That's it.
All right. Well, Ed, as you know, being a loyal listener yourself, which we're so incredibly grateful for, and let me take a moment here again before we get on to our 5 questions that we ask our guests to thank Ed so much. I've hinted around to it a lot on our shows, but I've been talking about doing a podcast even before I was talking to Corey about it, and through the whole process, Ed emailed me all the time. He answered all of my questions. He was incredibly patient. He's got a very busy life with his family and his education and theater and just being Ed in the Indy Cast. And he's been incredibly patient, and he's really been a mentor for our show. I don't think anyone could listen to the Indy Cast and not say, oh my gosh, Coffee with Kenobi really took a lot from the Indy Cast. We absolutely did. A lot of our format imitation is in sincerest form of flattery. Easy for me to say. And Ed, we have so much to thank you for Coffee with Kenobi. We couldn't have done this without you.
Oh, look, it's a pleasure, and I'm happy to help in any way. And I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. And you guys are up to episode what number episode is this?
This is 6, and we've got 1, 2, 3. We've had, I think, 4 special shows too.
So look, you're hovering around episode 10, and you guys are sounding so much better than I ever sounded that early on in my run. You guys are doing a fantastic job, so you should be very proud of what you and the content you're putting out is great too.
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot.
Thank you very much. Yes.
So here we go. Start as you know. These are one word or one sentence answers. Ed, what is your favorite Star Wars movie?
That's tough. It is really tough, but it's Star Wars: A New Hope.
Okay. Right. Your favorite character?
I'm going to be a little bit predictable. It's Han Solo, but I'll add this, that I really love the dynamic with Han, Luke, and Leia, the Fab Three. I just love when they're together. I think that's a really good dynamic. So it's Han, but Luke, as I look at my 12-inch Luke figure that my sister got me in 1978, I have fond memories of that. So Luke's up there, but definitely Han. I mean, he's Indiana Jones. I don't want to give anything away, but
And I still want to have someday you and Mark Newbold on talking about Han Solo and Indiana Jones. I think that's going to be a fun show. It'll be really fun to coordinate an American, someone from England and someone from Australia, getting a time where we can all meet. That'll be a real challenge.
But you'll go global. I think that's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Your favorite line of dialogue or film moment?
Favorite line of dialogue, I think, would have to be from A New Hope, which is boring conversation anyway. Luke, we're going to have company. Because I just love the energy there and what that builds up to, and I like Han's wit.
Well said.
If you collect, what's your favorite collectible that you own?
I do collect, and I've been collecting since 1977. And I was trying to think of this, actually. What my wife asked me, because she's listened to your show as well, and said,
cool.
What is your favorite collectible? And I'm thinking there was recently I did get the Star Wars. This is actually, sorry, it's supposed to be a one word or one sentence. I apologize. No. I managed to get on eBay the Star Wars Electronic Battle Command game, which I remember seeing in a shop called Treasureway. It was like a haberdashery shop where lots of clothing and tea towels and things like that, and tablecloths. And there was one little toy section, and my mum would go, I'm just going to the toy section, and she'd look around the shop, and they had this one game, and it just fascinated me. How could you have a computer in a little game that was like X-Wings? I had no idea. And it was like $150 back in 1979, which is way too expensive. So I finally got that on eBay, mint in the box. So that has a connection to me. But I do love my big Millennium Falcon. I mean, that is pretty spectacular.
Which one do you have?
I've got the big Millennium Falcon, the one that was just released recently, which is pretty good.
Did you open it?
Oh, of course.
There you go.
I've got all the figures in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I've got that. And my AT-AT as well is really good. But it's a little weird. It's my I've got a glass that I got from a market, which is from Star Wars. They brought out a set of paintings. It's from Pizza Hut and Coca-Cola, and they brought out a set of posters as well. And this one's the Darth Vader one, which I got for 10 cents at a market, which I swore they were going to say, that'll be $40, and I would have paid for it. But 10 cents, it was great. So that's got sentimental value to me as well.
Last question for you. And by the way, I saw that picture of that game on Instagram. I saw when you got that. That was very cool.
I was very excited.
Last question for you. What particular messages or themes about the Star Wars saga resonate or speak to you?
I just what I like is that it's certainly in the early part of the series, it's just that quest and that I suppose the hero's journey and the good old good versus evil. And obviously later on, as we find out a little bit more, where, you know, the good guys aren't always that good, the bad guys aren't always, well, they're bad, but, you know, there's shades of grey. But I do like from that original New Hope, it was really clear cut. The good guys are good, the bad guys are bad, and it was really easy to distinguish that. You know, Darth Vader, he looks menacing. Luke Skywalker, you know, the fair-haired, you know, hero. I really enjoyed those themes, and I suppose the themes that as a kid is that, you know, Luke Skywalker, he's a farm boy. I'm sure people have said this a bazillion times, but, you know, he has that greatness within him, and it proves that you can do anything, no matter whether you're a princess or you're a smuggler or you're a lowly farm boy or you're an astromech droid. You know, you can achieve greatness and maybe save the galaxy.
Very, very well said. And I like, people keep, you and Mark too, keep giving me these different sides of Han Solo. I that's fantastic. So Ed, real quickly, where can everyone reach you and get in touch with you and listen to the Indy Cast?
Certainly. Well, the best way to listen to the show is you can subscribe to the show in iTunes. Just do a search for Indy Cast and you'll find us there. There's also our website at www.theindycast.com, and you can listen to us live on there. I'm just slowly updating. We lost a lot of shows once the Forcecast transitioned to their new website, so I'm slowly updating a lot of our older shows so you can listen to our back catalogue, though I can't guarantee the content is that good, having listened back to some of those early episodes. I sound a little bit like Mannequin Skywalker in front of a mic, but that's all right. So you can find us there on Twitter as well at the IndyCast, and we've got our Flickr page, the flickr.com/IndyCast, and, you know, or just send me an email. How about that? ed@theindycast.com, and I always reply, though, as Dan will attest, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but I do reply. I apologize.
He does. Persistence pays off, but you don't even need it. I've been a podcast junkie for a long time. Ed's the only guy that's emailed me back every single time, and it's not because he's not insanely busy. He is. He has a lot of listeners, a lot of loyal fans. Rob of the Bearded Trio, one of his biggest cheerleaders, as am I. Mitch and the whole gang. So we're very excited, very honored to have you on our show.
Yes, Ed, I really appreciate you coming on our show. And like Dan said, he's a big podcast listener, and he definitely said, you got to listen to Indy Cast. Got to check this guy out. He does a great job, and obviously you're a big inspiration to us. We really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on, and I'm glad we could finally work it out, and it's been great fun.
It has been fun, and Ed, besides being talented and smart and clever, he's also humble, because I've listened to the IndyCast since the very first episode. I've never missed a single episode. It just gets better and better. They're good shows. I'm particularly fond of episode 159 because I got to be in Club Obi-Wan with him, but they're great. You have to, in fact, just pause the show now and go subscribe. You won't regret it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ed.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Tune in each fortnight to the Indy Cast, the world's #1 Indiana Jones fan podcast.
Trust me.
Featuring the latest news, reviews, and interviews with on-screen and behind-the-scenes talent who help bring to life the greatest adventure movie series ever made. Each episode has the latest from the world of Indiana Jones, as well as interactive segments, trivia, contests, and specials, including radio dramas and music retrospectives. The Indy Cast.
It's a transmitter. It's a radio for speaking to God.
Available in iTunes or listen directly at theindycast.com.
If adventure has a name, it must be the Indy Cast.
Our show topic for show number 7 is the role and rights of fandom. What are our rights as far as evaluating the Star Wars franchise? Do filmmakers, EU writers listen to fans? How powerful is the Star Wars fan community? And what are some of the pros and cons of this?
And this was a good topic. This was Corey's idea to come up with this topic, and it seems really relevant and pertinent considering, again, the things that go on Twitter and Facebook and online all the time, and the sense of ownership that we as fans have. I'm guilty of it as much as Corey is and anybody else. But what kind of rights do we have? And should Lucasfilm listen to us? Do they listen to us? We've got a powerful fan community, but just how powerful is it, and how does that sit with you? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? What do you think about this? Email us, comment on our webpage, send us a Facebook or a tweet about it. What is the right and role of fandom in the Star Wars universe?
I like the sound of that.
Echo 3 to Echo 7. Ano, buddy, do you read me?
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
Our first email is from Melinda Wolf, again, our feature blogger on coffeewithkenobi.com. And Melinda actually sent us 3 different emails over the past month and a half, about a month or so. And I'm just kind of taking stuff. We talked about some of our emails in our discussion segment, so I just want to read this one right here. Interesting comments on the role of women in the Star Wars universe. She says, "While I haven't had any problems with the way Princess Leia was clad while a slave in Jabba's palace, nor with Padme's costume on Geonosis, I hope J.J. Abrams does not resort to sexifying Star Wars in Episode 7. Those instances regarding Padme and Leia were small in the scope of the costumes the 2 most important female characters wore, and no Star Wars character should be quote-unquote sexy. I go back to the fact that the saga is a family affair," and she put that in all caps. "In addition, nudity should not be a part of Star Wars. It has absolutely no place. Adding it to Star Trek was a huge mistake, in my opinion. If you like, I'd be happy to share my reasons with you on this, but I am not a prude. However, I am a huge proponent of the story standing on its own feet. Injecting nudity, sex into stories like Star Wars and Star Trek truly diminish the story of these iconic sagas. Enough said. Have fun, guys. Looking forward to your podcast."
Thank you, Melinda, and we always love hearing from our fans. If you've not checked out that podcast, if you would say, Dan, would you say it was one of our top-rated podcasts as far as downloads?
It was one of our top downloaded ones. We really got deep. In fact, we were talking about Scott and Sean and us playing Star Wars Trivial Pursuit last night, and they were talking about, but it almost sounded like a sociological study of women. And Melinda brings up some interesting points. I agree with her. I don't think you need sex or nudity. This is the thing that we talked about with that Boba Fett having to be apparently some quote-unquote stud with the ladies. I find that absurd. Yeah. Why you don't need that in there? Star Wars is a myth. I mean, I'm not saying everybody is a Ken doll from the waist down, but there's a time and a place. This is an adventure story. It's a mythological story. You don't need to add all that stuff into it, I don't think.
I agree. It's like she said, it'd be a huge mistake to do it in these new episodes, and obviously it's not any place in the Clone Wars. There's no place in the saga for it, really. I mean, it doesn't need to be done for the characters themselves. It diminishes their characters, and it really, I mean, we've held these characters so high up. I'd be horrible to see, I think, on screen.
Well, like you said, these are family affairs. So, you can still make something attractive or sexy without sexifying it.
Absolutely. Our next email comes from A.E. Welling. They say, "Hi guys, saw last evening's show number 5 was up on iTunes, loaded it up, and listened to it at work today. Good stuff. Thank you for choosing some of my comments to be part of your show. I'm sticking with the prequel/Clone Wars era EU, if any at all, as it is most believable. Mostly the books and novels, no comics or games, save for the 2 Battlefront games. I have to absolutely agree, it is upon the individual and what they choose to include in their acceptance of the expanded universe materials. Good show. Can't wait for show number 6.
And I agree. As far as the expanded universe, you sort of pick and choose the era that you're comfortable with or that you like, or maybe certain characters that resonate with you.
As we stated in the discussion, it is kind of up to the individual what they like to pick and choose. As these new episodes start to come out, we're going to see a barrage, if you will, of EU material. Like we just talked about the comic books, and people are up in roar about that kind of stuff. We're going to see a lot of stuff come through, and it's going to be difficult to get through, what lies in the good area and the bad area, and we'll see what Lucasfilms does. Like we talked about before, the films to us are canon for sure. The EU is kind of the next step down, and obviously its own storyline.
And on the most recent Forcecast, they interviewed Jennifer from Lucas Books, and she had said, and she didn't officially say what is, but she said they do have a lot of books planned for the future, so that's good news for Star Wars fans. Our last email is from Gar Van Orden again. Gar was one of our winners of our Kenobi contest where we gave away the book, so we'd love to hear from Gar and from Joe. Joe was the other guy who won. We'd love to hear what they had to say about the book, so we're looking forward to that. But this is what Gar writes, and this is about how they're going to film the sequel trilogy. And he says, ultimately, the decision to film the sequel trilogy in 35mm versus digital really doesn't matter. I think anyone who can tell me that they can make a huge difference between a movie that was shot on film and shot digitally is crazy. The main difference will be seeing a movie projected differently. If it's film, it will deteriorate with every viewing, and if it's digital, it will look perfect every time. Thanks to Lucas, Cameron, and others for sorting that technology out, most of us can see any new film we want digitally projected in theaters. Now, while I think a movie filmed in 35mm and projected digitally looks perfectly fine, it still does seem a bit backwards that they're choosing to do this. When digital cameras, regular picture taken once that normal consumers like you and I own, first came out, they weren't as good as film cameras. Now, however, everyone seems to agree that digital cameras are better, even professional photographers. Why isn't Hollywood getting the message? Yes, I could take a nice film camera and take just as good of a photograph as I could with the latest digital ones, but I'd just be making myself spend more money and do more work. That's what JJ is making Lucasfilm do. Spend more money and do more work. But what do I care of what is made is virtually the same? The answer is, I don't. Much. Well, it doesn't matter that much to me. If I had a choice, I'd tell them to film digitally because that would be the spirit of what George Lucas would do. Why do they use 35mm? Because JJ likes it. And probably mostly just for nostalgic reasons. This whole thing hasn't been confirmed yet, but I gotta say that it wouldn't surprise me at all. I've been saying it all along. Ever since JJ's been hired, that's just the way he is, just like Spielberg. When Spielberg were hired to film Episode 7 was making this decision, I don't think anybody would be complaining. And the other reason people are complaining about this is the fact that Episode 7 won't be filmed in 3D. Many films, including Episode 1 in 3D, and even JJ's Star Trek Into Darkness, have proven that 3D conversion has come a long way. It's not just a hack job. It can really just look great. So even that is a moot point. Well, thank you, Gar, for that. You pointed out some interesting things. I'm certainly not an expert when it comes to camera. When I heard this idea, and I assume it's been confirmed, 35mm is cool with me because once it gets converted onto a Blu-ray, it's not really going to matter anyway. For posterity's sake, we'll always have the films. They're going to outlive us, as we mentioned before. I don't really have a problem with that. I think it's cool, again, they're harkening back with real sets and trying to focus more on making it more filmed in the same vein as the original trilogy to kind of get back to that sort of a feel. So I think that's pretty cool. I hope, they haven't said really anything about 3D as far as officially. That's all I'm concerned with on this show, and I know Corey's in the same boat with me. I hope it's not in 3D. I don't really need that. I think it's good enough on its own. It doesn't need 3D. What do you think?
I agree. 3D is not my favorite thing, and if the movie isn't like created around 3D, then there's really no point to put it in 3D. It's fun. It's a little, it's extra money for the moviegoer. I could do without. But here's another interesting aspect. It's rumored that they may be shooting an IMAX film too, IMAX cameras to do an IMAX release. Would I think would be an excellent idea. It is still a rumor, but. As far as using the 35mm, that's the way J.J. Abrams is going to do it. Obviously, it's his step-by-step process, the way he does do things, or the way he's approaching this project. And if that's the way he's got to do it, more power to him. Because any artist who's going to approach their project in a certain way, or use a certain film, or a certain brush, or paint, any artist that wants to approach a project their own way, more power to him, because they're not rushing it. Okay, they're going to put their labor of love into it, and if that's part of it, what JJ wants to do, again, more power to him. If you'd like to respond to a question on our show, or have a comment, or would just like to say hello, send us an email at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or visit us on the web at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please provide a review on iTunes. You can like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Coffee with Kenobi, as well as keep up to date on our Twitter feed at twitter.com/Coffee with Kenobi. If you enjoy the jazz music, download the album Eye to Eye by Steve Torok on iTunes.
Give the evacuation code signal.
That's it for show number 6 of Coffee with Kenobi. A huge thank you to Ed Dolista for having a cup of coffee with us and for discussing the special edition. Be sure to check out his terrific podcast, The Indy Cast. Be sure to check out www.theindycast.com. Another big thank you to Mark Berry from the 501st Midwest Garrison for coming on and let us know about the 501st and its role in fandom, as well as in communities around the world.
Be sure to go to our website, coffeewithkenobi.com or thebeardedtrio.com, and enter our Twitter contest to win a copy of our National Geographic Star Wars, The Science Behind the Saga. Thanks to everyone who contributed to this week's show, and to all you out there who listen to our show. Don't forget to send us your comments and opinions on our topic for show number 7, The Role and Rights of Fandom. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi, unless otherwise indicated.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.